talk a little bit about the process and say again why we have as many people in the room as we do. Salaries and benefits make up 78% of the total $121 million proposed budget. It's over 4% of our budget total increase. This is in line with our goals for staff recruitment and retention. Like many of the districts around us, that means that our budget increase is high, that factor among others. The range in our DIRG is from 17.5 to 3.5%. The average of those numbers is 7.24%. Remember, we're at 6.19. If I remove Danbury, which was the highest at 17.5, it's 7.22%. I'm removing both Danbury and Greenwich. The average is actually 6.19%. Looking at our own historical numbers over the last 10 years, at this point in the process, we've ranged from a high of 5.32% in fiscal year 2015 to a low of 2.8% in fiscal year 2018. The average during that period is 3.7%. Each of those percentage points with our current budget is around $1 million. So we're talking about big numbers, and that is why we're all here having some tough discussions. We're asking ourselves, in an inflationary environment, what is the best way to maintain the high quality educational delivery we prize in a fiscally balanced way? The budget in front of us represents the superintendent's proposal for how to do that. Up to this point, the board's been asking questions about this budget, largely in the service of clarification. Tonight, later in the meeting, the board will identify areas of the budget for future consideration. This is called add cut night. It's called it because that consideration can be an addition or a reduction of dollars to a line item. Board members are also welcome to identify line items for further clarification or consideration. Subsequent to this, there'll be a meeting on my list, January 30th. That is the public hearing. We are statutorily required to have a public hearing, but we also really value it. We value hearing from you. Very often, members of the public come and talk to us about what's on our add cut list. We're happy to hear about that, but we'll also hope you'll talk to us about what you value, what you want in your school system. Tell us what you feel, what you think, what you see. Because this is about hearing from the public. It's a great opportunity. Last year, American Sign Language was on the budget. I was very excited to see it there. But because it wasn't on the add cut list, I didn't hear very much about it. If there's some class you're really excited to hear about, tell us about it. Let us know. There's a lot in here, and we'd love to hear. Subsequent to that, there'll be some additional discussion. There's another meeting on February 6th. We'll continue to deliberate. And then we get to February 13th, which is a regular Board of Ed meeting. And that will be the night where we do all of our final votes. So there's plenty of opportunity for the board to continue to deliberate and the public to continue to provide us feedback as we discuss. As we move into the rest of the meeting, we will start, and we're moving to add cut. We'll be talking about different things that really matter to individual people and to individual groups of people. So I want to stop and remind us all, we're talking about people. We're talking about students and their experience. We care about each and every one of their students. Students cost different amounts of money. Doesn't matter what your kid costs, right? They are all welcome. We love them all. It's really important. APs are expensive. Athletics are expensive. Music in certain aspects can be expensive. Special education can be expensive. It's okay. Doesn't mean that we don't have to talk about our school system and make hard choices, but I hope nobody is internalizing the fact that sometimes we're talking about kids. I think that's important. So I think with that, I will say, let's move on to the rest of the meeting. And that the next thing is public comment. Thank you for your time.
Should we start with in person? If you would like to speak and you're in person, please come up to the podium. You'll have up to 3 minutes to comment. Please observe the timer in front of Ms. McCammon. Please state your name and address for the record. If you are speaking on behalf of an organization, please state the organization's name.
Crystal Hill, 300 Brookside Road. I am co-chair of CDSP. As we continue the budget process, the feedback that CDSP and our PTO chairs are continuing to receive from parents is that many of their biggest concerns with this proposed budget are actually the items that are not included or items cut from the budget. These include 6 FTE teaching positions at Middlesex, 2.4 FTE special teaching positions across elementary schools, instructional aides at the elementary schools, a world language chair, and special education administrators that are specifically dedicated to overseeing elementary and secondary. Parents continue to have questions around these items, and we continue to encourage parents to educate themselves, provide feedback to us and the Board of Ed directly. Dr. Adley has offered our PTO chairs the opportunity to schedule a meeting where he can speak directly to parents about this budget. And I know that at least MMS is still waiting to schedule that meeting with his office. However, due to the timing of this process, if the cuts just mentioned are not proposed as additions this evening, we are concerned that the process of continuing to hear parent feedback on these specific concerns, which will help to inform your decisions as a board, will be cut short before the public hearing on January 30th. The ability to add these items back into the budget will be limited if not proposed this evening. Therefore, we request that the board considers modification proposals to the budget tonight, that they consider adding these cuts back, if only to give parents more time to educate themselves, reach out to you directly, and speak to these items at the public hearing on January 30th. Thanks.
Thank you. Just a point of information, the board actually retains the ability to add or subtract up until the vote on the 13th. So I think it's just important for the public to know that. Barry.
Okay. Barry Palmer, Danbury, DEA President. Good evening. I want to thank the board for their work throughout the budget process. As we've been following the budget discussions over the past few weeks, a couple of things have become abundantly clear. The first is that these recommendations have been made without fully fleshing out how we will actually operate as a district next year. So far, we have heard 4 different plans for the middle school next year, with the most recent proposal being mixed grade level teams. This isn't just an erosion of the team model, it would be an abandonment of that philosophy. The middle school model is one that this community of parents, teachers, and multiple boards of education have committed and recommitted to several times over the years. We've done this because it is the best model, and that's what our students deserve. Our students deserve better than cut first, ask questions later. There seems to be a disconnect between this budget and what is actually happening in our schools and classrooms. As a district, we have failed to utilize the knowledge and expertise of our staff. We have failed to consider how this budget will negatively impact our students. The teachers are trying to tell you that it will be impossible to maintain the quality of our instruction and programming if this budget passes as it's currently presented. As recently as last week, it was said at the board table that we should trust the experts. The board has acknowledged many times that the quality and capacity of our teaching staff is unmatched. There's every bit as much expertise sitting behind me and watching on Zoom as there is working in central office. When it comes to what's going to be successful on the ground level working with students, the teachers are the experts. We have the classroom experience in Darien. We have the institutional knowledge. And when it comes to providing a level of education that meets the expectations of this community, the teachers are the experts. Please listen to us when we tell you these cuts are bad for our students. Please listen to our expertise. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Katie Gale. I teach 5th grade at Hindley School. Go Huskies. I live in Stamford. Good evening. I want to thank the board, as always, for listening to the education community. We have an exceptional public school system here in Darien. I'm very proud to be part of it. And it's not evidenced just by the high test scores, but by our student engagement and their creativity and their kindness and their mindset. Our young people, supported by this community that prioritizes education, have the opportunity to thrive and fulfill the vision of the graduate. Instructional aides are an integral part of our system and in our elementary communities and in our classrooms. They have spent very little time in our classrooms since the pandemic, and we feel it. In classes, they can work one-on-one with students who are struggling with a skill, or they can help kids catch up who have been absent. They run reading groups and math centers, and they help students organize their materials. Instructional aides work with the class so that teachers can provide small group instruction. intervention for SRBI, or differentiation for our higher learners. Well, this is a challenge to accomplish in any elementary classroom in any given day. But if we know we're going to have an instructional aide in our room, it happens. What is not reflected in all of these things is how instructional aides are present for our students. What they bring to our spaces, our hallways, our playgrounds, our lunchrooms and walkways is immeasurable. They are other trusted adults. Students know them, and they know students, and the students know they care. They are the first adults they see when they get to school and the last ones they see when they leave. They can spot a student in the hallway who's looking a little off and connect with that child and help them out. They can spot a student on their way to maybe a poor choice and intervene before it happens. But better yet, the students know them and trust them and can go to them. They only do this because they know them. This intangible is part of what makes our schools the villages that our students need to learn and strive and thrive. We absolutely have a shortage of substitutes and we'll benefit from building subs, but they will not replace what our instructional aides bring to our buildings. As for our specialist teachers, well, they are also essential in developing the whole child. And for some students, they are lifelines, the spaces where they feel most confident and accepted. All students need to have space to develop their bodies and creative minds and learn about different cultures. But it is imperative that our students whose strength is in those areas have every precious minute they can with those teachers, and cutting time with students or cutting the planning time necessary to be sure they're getting what they need will have a definite negative impact on the same manner that cutting our instructional aides will have. Please do not dismantle this vibrant learning community by pieces. I implore you, preserve the 5 villages that support our children as they take their first steps on the path to fulfilling the vision of the graduate. Thank you so much for supporting public education.
Thank you.
Hello. Laura Hendry, 28 Hamilton Lane, 10-year Darien resident and parent to 2 sons in the school district with a third clearly arriving any moment. I appreciate your consideration for my concerns regarding the proposed budget. 1, reduction of elementary school instructional aides. Aligning each elementary to have 2 instructional aides will severely impact the critical aide to student ratio, particularly at Oxbridge, which houses a larger student body, creating an inequality compared to peer elementary schools. While there is no reduction to IEP mandated paraprofessionals, it's a valid concern that the impact of these reductions could trickle down and further stress special education resources, as these mandated paras in the absence of instructional aides could understandably serve as calls for help from the wider student population, diverting support away from their direct one-to-one student. 2, removal of the elementary school special education program director. I understand the rationale for this change. My concern is the timing, given the high level of staffing turnover the schools have encountered. Oxbridge doesn't have a permanent principal, and our new special education and student services assistant principal, who is an amazing asset to both Oxbridge and the special education community, is new to role. Tokenique and Royal also have new special education and student service assistant principals, meaning 3 out of the 5 elementary schools have assessed AP currently in their first year. Removing this layer of district involvement for next year seems hasty. While the breadth of responsibilities of the proposed K-12 director are yet to be fully understood, it appears a large position for one person. I'm concerned that this change has the potential to damage or dilute special education programming amongst our youngest learners when early intervention is so critical. If you'll allow me on a personal note, having now spent 2 decades working at a global financial institution as my role as director of corporate finance, I respect the challenges presented by the wider macroeconomic environment, and that budget discussions on paper are centered solely on numbers with difficult decisions having to be made. However, in my role as the mother to a brilliant neurodivergent child who directly benefits from special education services within this district, I kindly ask that you, the Board of Education, be thoughtful during discussions relating to the rising numbers in the special education community. Remember that each number is associated with an actual student who is legally afforded a fair and equal education. Every IEP and every PPT is supported by an underlying diagnosis that was made after months, if not years, of assessment by teams of professionals. As parents, we do not choose these diagnoses for our children, but we will always advocate to get them access to the tools and support that they require and are legally afforded to develop and thrive in a world that simply functions on a different operating model than their own. Questions around why Darien's IEP and PPT rates are higher than surrounding districts are maybe fair and logical. However, at this juncture, reducing resources which support these numbers and the efforts of budgeting versus determining what requirements the community needs to service these rising statistics is haphazard. I very much value your time and appreciate you listening to me this evening. Please know that we are also listening to you.
Hi, Lauren Pine, 214 Old Kings Highway South, parent of two and public school educator in music. Thank you for the opportunity to share my concerns a couple of weeks ago. I'm here to repeat a few questions that remain unanswered, as well as to highlight a few other thoughts that I hope will be covered in this evening's meeting. One of the most important questions that has been asked multiple times, but has not yet received a clear answer, is there a proposed schedule that reflects the FTE cuts and what they will look like for music teachers and those class sections? It has come to light that the consultant originally calculated there was 10.8 FTE across the middle and elementary school general music teachers, when in fact there's only 6.8. While this was a genuine mistake and not understanding the ins and outs of how a music program works, shouldn't this new number cause us to re-examine those reductions in our music staff? It now appears that the FTE in music aligns with art, PE, and Spanish. Why would music continue to be targeted as an area that needs reduction? When parents and staff hear the terms reducing FTE, we also hear cutting programs, which was an issue back in 2019. There was a budget proposal to cut third grade strings. Fortunately, our community successfully advocated for this program to remain intact. And I know this for a fact because my daughter then picked up the violin in 2020 and has played since. We are thankful for that decision-making and that we can continue to watch our children grow in a nurturing music program. Dr. Adley, to his credit, reassures us there will be no cuts in programming. However, the math just doesn't add up. Unless the music teachers are significantly underscheduled in this past year, how can the music program survive with less FTE when enrollment is currently on the rise? In other words, how are we going to secure that more sections of music next year if there's an increase? How will you stretch the newly proposed 5.0 FTE of teachers across 5 elementary schools with 6 different grades multiplied by a minimum of 3 to 4 sections per grade that needs twice a rotation? These full-size general music sections are successfully covered by the current staffing, again, of 6.8. And as a public school educator of 16 years, I can't fathom how that number is going to work with fewer staff members next year. This calculation doesn't even include ELP. What is also alarming is that the consultant clearly stated his role is simply to crunch numbers and that his findings are mere suggestions. He reminds us he does not know the ins and outs of our music program and or the needs of our community. He's simply looking at data. In a very sports-centric town, we need to be careful that we don't continue to fund athletics and continue to cut and exclude the arts. We also need to consider the social and emotional well-being of our students and how music is an outlet for so many. So what then is the solution? Would you reconsider the proposed cuts altogether? Have you consulted with the music curriculum coordinator and her staff to say that they can confidently work within these cuts? Or does that mean restructuring the entire music program? And may I remind you that the music curriculum is K through 12. Loss instruction, whether time, staff, or quality, will have a ripple effect and in the entire school system, but also in our town. There are so many opportunities in Darien as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Sarah Forger, 40 Hillside Avenue, mother to 1 Hindley Husky and 1 preschooler, future Hindley Husky. Thank you so much for all of the time and effort you have spent on this budget. I'm sure it has been very stressful to say the least, and we understand eggs are more expensive, everything is more expensive. And I would like to echo Lauren's concerns specifically about the music program. I'm sure there is more that could be said. I wish we were here today, honestly, saying how could we have the best in-class music program in Fairfield County or in this state, right? How could we have that experience for our kids? I'm sure we'd love to be having that conversation, and maybe we will one other day. But today, as Lauren was pointing out, how do we make the reduction of 1.8 FTE cover current programming? I grew up in a very musical household. If you're teaching the tuba, you probably don't do 5th grade strings, you don't do choir. And also music is already a labor of love. If you are a music teacher, you are doing it because you believe in it and because you love it, not because you are being highly compensated for what you are doing. So in order to attract talent to our school system and keep people consistent and inspire our children to have a lifelong love and joy of music, which is something that goes way beyond college admissions, and yes, is very, very helpful in college admissions, I implore you not to make a cut in music we do not fully understand. And if someone can show me a plan of how with 6.8
how many FTEs are we going to have? With the number of people we're saying we can have, we can staff the programs we have. I would love to see that proposal. We can get creative. I just don't think it is probably possible. I also am very passionate about mental health in this community. We have a very wealthy, successful community. We have a known issue with mental health in the youth in this community. And if you Google, I did this the other day, how does music help youth mental health? You get 128 million responses. I would just look through a couple of them, but I'll give you one quote. The mental well-being of adolescents is significantly influenced by music through mechanisms such as facilitation of emotional expression and regulation, fortification of social bonds, and the sense of belonging, as well as the fostering of creativity and cognitive development. Sign me up for that. That sounds wonderful, right? It helps. Music is highly correlated with success in math. If you're not finding a spot on the lacrosse team, if you're not finding a place in mathletes, right? Maybe you can find a place in strings or band. You can have friends, and most of all, you can have a lifelong experience that will go beyond your school years. My father went to Larchmont Public Schools in the 50s, and his principal called my grandmother and said, "This is an extremely shy person. We need to give him an outlet." He looked in the Encyclopedia Britannica, he found the saxophone, and today he is a professional classical saxophonist and the dean of the College of Music at Michigan State University. So he really owes his entire career, and I owe my artistic upbringing to that principal. I hope that you would consider my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. I'm Isabella Moss, residing at 71 Roten Avenue. I'm a senior at DHS who is incredibly involved in music and art. I've been in band all 4 years and taken 7 total semesters of art classes throughout high school. Music and arts have truly had a profound impact on my life, largely thanks to the teachers that I've had, namely Miss Brenly and Miss Christie at Henley for 5 years, all the way until Miss DeLudy and Mr. Grauer at the high school. I'm very grateful that I had consistency with my art and music teachers throughout my 13 years in the district, and it's disheartening to hear that most of the current elementary and middle schoolers will not be able to say the same. For example, with the proposed changes, Holmes elementary schoolers will have had 4 general music teachers over 3 years. Stability is crucial in allowing students to focus on their studies and develop a passion for the arts rather than having to adapt to constant changes. This consistency encourages stronger student-teacher relationships and gives kids a sense of structure and familiarity. With these proposed teacher cuts, teachers will be forced to teach outside of their area of expertise, which could compromise the quality of instruction, possibly leading to a decline in student engagement and less of an opportunity for teachers to build connections with students. Art and music education has numerous benefits on a child's mental health and well-being, proving to help with anxiety, depression, self-esteem, and more. The arts also help in the development of soft skills, which will be beneficial to any profession. Lastly, I urge you to consider the cascading effects that the proposed cuts may have. Creativity is one of the virtues of the vision of the graduate and is mentioned in the Board of Education philosophy. So I hope you'd uphold these values with the new budget. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Good evening. Jackie Owens, 4 Parsons Walk. Speaking tonight as co-chair of CPAC, Darien, parent leader of the Connecticut Parent Advocacy Center, clinical social worker, mother of children with IEPs, one who attended ELP 2 years ago. Regarding the proposed changes to the ELP program, ELP might work as a 5-day program, but we do not have data to support the projected enrollment numbers and potential income for this coming year, since the September 1st cutoff is new. By adding the 5th day for all students, won't it take away from children who have IEPs, since their teachers will have to be in the main classroom with all of the teachers? Most of the students with IEPs currently see their providers on the 5th day. We've only heard wonderful reports at our Board of Ed meetings regarding our current 4-day program. So why change it now when we are under a budget crisis and cutting teachers? We are comparing our proposed ELP tuition to the private schools, not to other programs in Connecticut. So we do not even have a pre-K curriculum. We owe it to our parents to show them the benefit from mixed age classrooms for the older children, justify the tuition, and how it better prepares them for kindergarten. As we go through the formal process, just like anything else, why did we not have the board approve the 5-day program, right? So for example, the elementary level proposed to cut instructional aides is not pertinent. We actually need these aides who are with our schools and have been there a long time. And now we want to hire long-term subs, but we can't even fill daily sub positions, a school psychologist at Tokenique, a special ed teacher at DHS. Why do we think that cutting teacher positions is crucial at this time? We actually need to focus on retention, and that should be the climate and priority for our district and keeping these positions. Not only for our children, but for us as the taxpayers and parents. I also want to point out that the proposed budget is administrator heavy. So I'm looking at the clock because I'm always running late. Cutting positions in music, art, special ed positions that have direct effect on student learning. While our security director sits at the Board of Ed office with no direct student contact. All of our security officers are overqualified and we're very lucky. Very lucky. But why don't we just have them be a lead, just like we have other department leads, right? MMS, we can't even have them go to the restroom in passing period. We can't manage behavior, yet we're cutting MMS staffing. That does not make sense. That's just one example. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kate Havoc from 16 Hamilton Lane. I feel like I'm going to get to know you all very well over the course of our tenure here in Darien. I'm here to talk about language again. I wanted to follow up from last week's comments. So in Ukraine, they use the Cyrillic alphabet, and most of the characters are the Russian Cyrillic alphabet characters. However, there is one character in the Ukrainian alphabet that Russians do not use. It looks like a lowercase I, except it has 2 dots at the top. This character doesn't exist in Russian, and it has become a symbol of the resistance of the Ukrainian people. It is showing people, it's all over Ukraine right now. I volunteer with local youth in Ukraine. It shows resistance, the anti-invasion, and it demonstrates a passionate message that cannot be communicated if you do not understand the nuance of the language. Language translates culture. It translates our ability to communicate with others. It translates our ability to be empathetic human beings. If we do not have language in our school, we are saying America and English is the only thing that matters, and it doesn't. And if we're saying that global languages do not matter in our school systems, why is music more important? It isn't to me, but it is to others. They're all equally important depending on the person that you talk to and what your interests are. I don't understand as a taxpayer why we would be adding an assistant principal in middle school, but taking away a language position. It does not make sense to me. Separately, on the ELP perspective that I spoke about last week, there's an increased cost of 43% in adding the days of the program from 4 to 5 days a week. This seems to me to be offsetting budget deficits that exist across the other spectrum. We should be moving towards universal early childhood education. We should not be supplementing budget losses from early childhood students that want to participate in a program. No one is contesting the fact that early childhood is important, but there is a great vast difference between a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, and choice matters. We should have different programs. We should have a 3-year-old program and a 4-year-old program. Some should be half days, some should be full days. We should not be mandating to individuals that this is what works because we need more money from these people, and this is a way to offset $73,000. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Adley. Good evening, board members. My name is Jim Carter. I've been a teacher in Darien for 26 years as a band director at Middlesex Middle School, and I'm from Riverside. The Darien public school system is known for its high level of student achievement in the performing arts. This is due to the fact that the performing arts are valued and supported by our community. Parents know firsthand what the arts mean to them and their children. When students succeed in the arts, they succeed in all aspects of their lives, in school and beyond. If 1 or 2 music positions are eliminated in our music department, this will most certainly have a detrimental effect on our staff members by shifting the teaching load to other teachers who have expertise in a different area of music education and who are already teaching a full load. This could result in teachers leaving the district. The net result will be students not receiving the quality music education that they deserve. Before a decision is made, can we see a schedule run with the proposed cuts in mind and see how the district intends to effectively educate all of its students with the same high standards it's held for many years? Can we look at how other school districts have fared after having such drastic cuts to see the level of performance in those music programs? I'd rather not see us go down this path and experiment with positions, with eliminating positions, either with our music staff or with our classroom teachers at the middle school. I was in the middle school the year before the new school was built. And the day we moved into the new building, we were already at full capacity. We've been at full capacity. We're probably at 98% full capacity right now. And since the consultant brought up scheduling in his opening statement, it's noteworthy to mention that scheduling has been a concern at Middlesex. The scheduling of music classes at Middlesex requires a deep understanding of how the music department functions and how specific ensembles are taught. A lot of this comes down to classroom size, space, and scheduling of classes based on the balance of the ensembles, whether or not it's a performing ensemble or a general music class. By the way, our lab will only seat 21 students, and the proposal was for 22.5. When the middle school schedule shifted a few years ago, they took away our homeroom period of the first block of the day and moved it towards the middle. That took away 2/3 of our rehearsal time. We still do not have a full band rehearsal time or ensemble time in our schedule. So I'd like to see those changes made too. Thank you for your time.
Hi, I'm Tricia Bresnahan at 11 Glendale Avenue, and I'm speaking tonight on behalf of Darien CPAC. The proposed change to the special education administrative position seems to be made to accommodate the addition of assistant principals at the different school levels without changing headcount. While we don't question that assistant principals may be needed, it is not evident that the change to the special education administrator positions are best for the special education department or students. A second position that is responsible for students K through 12 does not necessarily ensure consistency, but it does add more students and oversight of more administrators at 3 different school levels to one person's job description. The department loses one position, and each level, elementary, MMS, and DHS, is impacted. Having department chairs work 12 months is a plus, but the special education chairs, now proposed program directors, were overworked and couldn't get to doing what their positions were supposed to be in the first place. And now there will be one less person at each level to rely on. In addition, we have heard at every turn that PPTs are the primary driver for this whole reorganization. However, we have not heard about taking any measures to make PPTs more efficient for everyone concerned. We are just adding people to attend and be administrators at the meetings. Administrators need training on how to run these meetings effectively and efficiently. Also, many times a PPT is the only way to get team members together in a room, and maybe there are alternative ways to do this. Maybe an addendum can be written up instead. The RC 24 PD budget remained flat. This could be a good use of the district's funds in order to streamline the PPT process. In addition, if a student is effectively accessing his or her education and receiving their services, there is no reason for multiple PPTs. While we're happy to see that tonight's curriculum update includes UBD, Understand by Design, and this looks like a worthwhile instruction design, to make sure that all students at Darien Public Schools can access our curriculum, universal design for learning needs to be instituted. If the diverse needs of all students are taken into account and all students can access the curriculum, multiple PPTs would most likely not be needed. And if all students could learn to read and write with Darien's reading curriculum and with certified reading teachers with experience in scientifically based multisensory reading programs, then referrals, PPTs, and perhaps outplacements could be reduced. Thank you.
Thank you.
I feel like I need to start the debate. Hello, my name is Jennifer Keating. I live at 1 Chasmars Pond Road. I'm mom to a college freshman who is DHS 23 and current 11th and 8th graders. Quickly before I proceed, I want to thank everyone who's planning to speak about the World Language Chair and the World Language Department, because losing those pivotal roles would be half of my public comment. And if they don't, I'll be back in a wig and a mustache. However, I am still concerned about cuts across the specials, specifically the music department and the arts in general. With permission from my college freshman, I wanted to share that in a survey she completed at graduation, she was asked, do you feel valued at DHS? And this girl, who was drum major and Theater 308 dance captain, answered no, because she felt the arts and her role in the arts was not valued here. My fear in watching this budget proceed is we are signaling to students that we do not value the arts and the music. We are making cuts, but saying we're going to refine that with scheduling. And I'm a working mom with 3 kids, so I understand the fine art of scheduling, but I also know that when we schedule things and reduce the team simultaneously, compromises have to be made, sacrifices have to be made, and the experience of everyone can be lessened. Cutting teachers within the music and arts departments at the elementary and middle school levels and collapsing the chair in both departments is going to affect the program's futures across K through 12. I firsthand watched our music department do a simply remarkable job of maintaining students through COVID in some of the toughest teaching circumstances. And now we are asking them to rally on and build a program with completely new parents and students with one hand tied behind their back. By devaluing the staff in music and art, we are signaling to the parents and the students that Katie was right, and they are less significant to our district. And if I have a spare moment, I have to say, which I do, because I have a clock, I have to say that the idea of collapsing the department chairs in art and music is insanity. No matter how qualified, a musician is not necessarily an expert in guiding the visual arts, and a visual artist should not be expected to play the euphonium. It would be tantamount to suggesting that the math chair can take over the science department because both have numbers. Cutting time to prepare, cutting time to teach, cutting teachers even at a percentage basis will cheat children of their future passions and homes. I would ask that we add back the positions, including world language, in case no one says it, currently suggested as being cut from the budget, so that we can continue this discourse and truly value the students who are in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Kernestruck. I live in Bethel, Connecticut. I am a physics teacher at Darien High School, and I am co-chair to the school's faculty council, for whom I am here on behalf of tonight. You may be familiar with our group from our letter last year in regards to instructional technology implementations within the building. Our faculty council is comprised of teachers from each department, with meetings happening monthly to discuss issues, concerns, and more importantly, solutions for perceived inefficiencies. The faculty council has had an active role in working with the administration to make sure Darien High School is the best learning environment possible for the children of Darien. Dr. Adley has stated that the current administrative structure has not been successful. We believe we already have the capacity in-house to address his concerns. The current restructuring of leadership positions would add more responsibilities to the burden of work our other administrators currently face. We should not be removing personnel while we acknowledge the overwhelming volume of work that they face. Our own teachers are willing to accept positions to assist in managing the school, and some would even be valuable internal candidates for new leadership positions. Our teachers know the students, they understand the school community, they build rapport with the families, and they have institutional knowledge that someone hired externally simply does not have. The impacts this experience has on the ability to succeed as an administrator is undeniable. Given all this, it is frustrating how few opportunities teachers are given, and even more disappointing that this budget will eliminate 2 of our most significant leadership positions in the district. Despite the high rate of administrative turnover, we continually look from outside the district to fill administrative positions. In 7 years, we've had the department chair positions. Only one of them has been promoted to assistant principal. Additionally, we have upwards of 17 teachers with 092 administrative certifications who are unable to move up the ranks due to this bottleneck. We have talented staff members who want to take leadership opportunities if given the opportunity. This could also take the form of a dean of student life who could take on an appropriate list of responsibilities from the administration while continuing to act as a teacher within the school. This is a model other districts follow successfully and can provide superior results at a lower cost. The proposed budget will currently work against the district's strategic plan by removing more leadership roles, incentivizing certified individuals to leave the district rather than provide their expertise to the position. We firmly believe the preservation and creation of meaningful teacher leadership positions will address the concern over administrative turnover and help keep talented teachers from leaving the district. Thank you for your time.
Just pause for 1 second. Can you guys raise your hand so I can just see how many people are in the audience wanting to speak tonight? Is it just, how many more? 4 more? 5? And then how many do we have raised online? 2. Okay, we'll continue. I just was gonna let HHR go, but we'll continue.
Mine is timed for 1.5 minutes, so we'll see how I do. Hello, good evening. My name is Kate Kaufman. I live at One Country Club Road, and I'm speaking as a parent of a 6th grader at Middlesex and 2 children at Oxbridge. I want to thank the board for your dedication to providing the best educational experience for our children. I'm voicing my concern about the reduction in teachers at Middlesex. I understand that we might still be within the recommended teacher-to-student guidelines in the classroom, but I also want to ensure that we are thinking carefully about adult supervision outside of the classroom, monitoring lunch, recess time, study hall or flex time, and in the hallways between classes. A couple of weeks ago, my 6th grader came home in tears. He had tripped at school and fell down a couple of stairs between classes. To add to his embarrassment, another student took a photo with a smartwatch and texted that out to a number of other students. After a few days, the teasing and ridicule stopped and the incident hasn't been forgotten. I'm sharing this as an example to remind everyone that we're talking about children and that even in the middle school years, they still do need proper adult supervision. I fear that incidents such as this would increase if there are fewer teachers or other adults in the building, especially as we know technology is only going to increase among our students. Everyone will be spread very thin if they are teaching more classes or are covering other responsibilities outside of the classroom. I also have this same concern when I hear that there will be fewer instructional aides in the elementary schools. Not only do our instructional aides provide the necessary academic support in the classroom, but they are essential in shaping our children's social and emotional development. My daughters have formed such a bond with their instructional aides. My 6th grader still asks about the instructional aides that he had in 4th and 5th grade, and it would be very disappointing to see that bond be lost. Thank you for your time and your consideration. And I'm giving you a minute back.
Thank you.
Good evening, Laura Pesh-Gray, 11 Parsons Walk. I want to thank all of you for your endless amount of hours that have been focused on not only these meetings, but drilling down on the budget to ensure that all these decisions are in the best interest of our students, our district, and our teachers. Thank you. Being a parent of twin boys that are very musically inclined, music is a big concern, and the numbers that I've been looking at and trying to drill down more on have become a concern to me, and I want to share some things that I've uncovered. There are the same number of teachers in physical education as is in music, and according to the teacher's workday spreadsheet, where it outlines the FTE per formula and the current FTE, I wanted to, I know that Ms. Sion basically says that there's basically cuts, but there are the same number of teachers in PE as in music. But according to the spreadsheet, it looks like in the current FTE column, for example, in Hindley, it says, while there's the same FTE 1.11 for PE and music, but in the current FTE column, that number for music is 2.2, not 1.5, which is the same for PE. So it includes basically the breakout. There's a 30-minute pullout for instrumental, So when you take general music, it's 45 minutes, 2 times a week. Band and orchestra is a 30-minute pullout, and that's included in that number. And I want to make sure that everyone here understands that it's not, it should be the same. And it basically insinuates that listing these higher numbers, that we have more teachers teaching general music than PE, which is not true. Plus, they teach 0.4 ELP music, which needs to be factored in since they said we are not cutting programs. PE, art, and Spanish do not teach ELP. I would love to implore that we have a talented, highest administrative salary in the state, second highest. And I would love for you guys to incorporate and bring in the teachers to sit down and look at scheduling and figure out how we can make this work without compromising our music and art program. And lastly, somebody said attracting talent. We have some amazing talented, Colleen Thompson has been such an incredible addition and had big shoes to fill and has filled them successfully. And Jacqueline Samus, who's been in the district for 17 years and doing the art coordinator position. My point is efficiencies and basically shifting that salary from.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Beth Agarabi. I reside at 45 Brookside Road, and I'm the proud parent of 2 in the district. I'm here tonight to share 2 ideas about the importance of the arts and the damage of these cuts. Why institute cuts into programs that are highly successful? One of the reasons why so many of us moved into Darien is because the school district values its arts, world language, and athletics. The arts are essential in turbulent times to unite, but immersing oneself there also ignites areas of the brain so that it can cognitively embrace and challenge more tasks, which we know our students are often tasked with. Clearly, our children flourish alongside the mentoring of outstanding teachers and a model that is highly successful. Tonight, I also have some concerns and ideas. Respectfully, bringing in a consultant to guide the budgetary process might justify the logos, but it does not help the school culture. Secondly, if we cut staff only to rehire staff down the line, what greater good does that serve except to create a Sisyphean cycle? I teach English, so that's the guy that rolls the rock up the hill back and forth. It takes time for newly hired teachers to acclimate to students, to learn the culture and to form relationships, all the while teaching their content. There is not a business-minded soul who could possibly quantify that value of a cycle which cuts and rehires. No doubt, cutting staff hurts the morale of the staff, a damage that many have said tonight might cause more attrition. Did we not report losing over 70+ staff members a few years ago? As a public educator in Westchester County, I have witnessed some other ways boards have found funds. This is definitely a small win, but New Rochelle School District announced today that they have a $25,000 savings because they underwent an efficiency study. And just from their summer alone, they've now recouped 25 grand into their budget. Or in my school, they're offering a retirement incentive to revered and experienced staff members to dignify their life's work and simultaneously recoup funds as those valued educators launch their retirements. I look for the day when our teachers' salaries are raised and that they are buoyed, not burdened under your caring and devoted and dedicated leadership as a board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kelly Scallon, 94 Fitch Avenue. I'm the co-chair of the Darien High School Parents Association. Bonjour, hola, salve. The ability to speak many languages is an important part of our children's upbringing. And while this budget has many changes for the high school, we'd like to focus on one of them, World Language Department Chair. It is an enormous role that should not be cut to serve a false model of efficiency. While it is true that the state graduation requirement for world language is 1 year, which is less than for other departments, it does not mean that there are fewer responsibilities for the department chair. While the graduation requirement is lower, many colleges, particularly selective colleges, expect to see an average of 3 years of a foreign language on an applicant's transcript. Looking at our students at Darien High School, over 84% of them are enrolled in a world language, and a handful actually take 2 languages. Even with increasing graduation requirements, eating into elective selections, and eye-popping 53% of the senior class takes a world language. In addition, there are 5 different languages taught at the high school, and next year there will be 30 different courses in those languages. Several of these languages are continuations of courses students have taken in the middle school. The continuity of language instruction between the 2 schools will suffer without the chair to coordinate it. As you may recall, this was one of the reasons department chairs were put into place to begin with. Further, the department chair is in charge of curriculum writing for all the languages offered. In the coming year, 2 language curricula will need to be written, Mandarin 8 and American Sign Language 2. Will multiple writers be able to proceed with the same unified vision for the curriculum that one department chair has? In the future, languages will be unlikely to have the consistency across the different classes that the other departments have. This was the other main reason for putting department chairs in place in the district. In addition, Mrs. Parent's concerns regarding Dr. Fedigan already being spread very thin in the curriculum development give us pause about giving up a department chair who would be writing a lot of curricula. As you can see, these responsibilities cannot easily be parceled out to others. We would like to ask, at the very least, that you move the world language department chair back into the budget for the time being so that we can continue to have conversations about the appropriate structure of high school administration. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kate McIntosh and I live at 11 Deepwood Road. First, I want to thank all of you for all of your time that you spend and your expertise to make sure our schools run as best they can. I have 4 children, 1 in the high school, 1 in the middle school, and 2 in elementary school. My youngest also went through the EOP program. Our family moved to Darien 5 years ago, primarily for the school district. I am speaking tonight in support of the teacher salary and benefit increase and disagree with the proposed budget. I urge you to take a hard look at the proposed budget and ask yourself, will our teachers be able to provide the same level of education to our children with all of these proposed cuts? I have many, many, many concerns with this proposed budget, but tonight I am going to focus on the changes to the EOP program. I ask you to listen to our teachers' concerns and try to understand how our teachers will be able to provide the same level of education to our EOP students, along with completing evaluations and reports of students at other preschools in the community, which are required by law, without an evaluation team. Will this really save the district money? It may in the short term, but please look long term. Our ELP teachers already work a full 5-day work schedule. Fridays afternoons after students leave at 11 o'clock are used for evaluations and report writing. I can speak from personal experience. If we are able to identify and provide our youngest learners with the proper support at age 3 and 4 and 5, then their cost for support as they grow will be significantly less come upper elementary, middle, and high school ages. Early identification closes the gap and therefore can help reduce outplacement expenses. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Anyone else in person?
How many people do we have online, Michelle?
6.
Okay. Would the board support moving HHR next and going back to public comment, just so we can let the HHR co-chairs go? No? Okay. Next person, please. Thank you, Michelle.
Jen Fisher, you are unmuted and recognized.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Jen Fisher, Danbury, DEA Vice President. Thank you to the board for their diligence and dedication to this budget process and for their commitment to doing what is best for the students of Darien. Throughout the budget season, we have heard in-depth discussions about the many efficiencies and the cuts that have been proposed. While we may believe that the justification of many of these cuts is flawed, we have been given no insight into why the elementary curriculum coordinator position is being cut. It appears to simply have been grouped under efficiencies. This position, as currently structured, is efficient. In no way is the elementary curricular coordinator a wasted expense. Without this position, you have no one able to bridge the communication around teaching and learning between the 5 elementary schools and central services. The proposed plan to make up for eliminating this position is to take the same amount of work and inefficiently split it up 5 different ways. While we do love teacher leadership opportunities, 1/5 of the amount of the work of a full-time position for 1/20th of the pay with 0 release time allotted to actually do the job doesn't sound like a leadership role. It sounds more like an unsupported recipe for failure. Teachers are already working beyond capacity. We question the success of a model that puts even more work on the already full plates of elementary educators. This doesn't even touch on the amount of work it takes to streamline the 5 buildings and coordinate between them. Who will be doing that work? It seems like this proposed efficiency is attempting to adopt an inefficient model that is going to result in gaps and less effective ways of monitoring and implementing teaching and learning, not just curriculum. As you know, in literacy alone, we are on tight timelines to make changes that will take a vast amount of work and organization. This is not the time to cut the position in the district that is actually designed to help manage and streamline the work that we are facing in the next couple of years. As presented, the cut to the elementary curriculum coordinator seems in contradiction to at least 3 of the goals in our strategic plan. I implore the board to please add this position back into our organizational structure. Support your teachers and your children by supporting this essential position in our district. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
L. Peterson, you are unmuted and recognized.
Thank you. I don't know why my camera's not working. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Thank you.
Okay. My name's Lisa Peterson. I live in Norwalk. I'm a science teacher and team leader at Middlesex. I've been an educator for 34 years, 21 in Darien. Thank you for your work around this budget and taking the time to consider the impact of these decisions. There's been discussion about the cost of the team structure at the middle school. I'm here to say that the benefits of teaming are worth the cost. I've taught in a junior high school and in 2 middle schools with teams. The middle schools have been vastly superior in their ability to guide students through 3 very difficult years. When students start middle school, they're coming from a small class with 1 or 2 teachers and a learning community of maybe 25 students at the most. In a middle school, this community expands to about 100 students. The team structure puts many sets of eyes on each student and allows teachers to talk to one another daily. I can find out who's having a bad day and needs support. We can quickly change a plan so that a student gets help in no time. When I taught in a school without teams, the counselor and admin were the hub of support for kids. With the additional layer of a team in place, there's a cohesive substructure that can help a student and direct specific cases upward as needed. Communication with parents is efficient and timely, with more people able to communicate on behalf of the team. We celebrate our students too and provide opportunities for learning and fun that are made impossible when kids are scattered across many different teachers. We connect topics and skills across all core subjects. World language teachers lend invaluable insights about our students in their classes. Each teacher on a team develops the whole child. Furthermore, working on a team allows teachers to model healthy working relationships. The quality of instruction is greater when students are in teams. For one, teachers share successful teaching and learning strategies. We can analyze academic data and collaborate about remediation and enrichment. With one special education teacher for all my students, I can push into the resource class to support students in science. At my former junior high, connecting with 7 different case managers in this way was impossible. Team days allow kids to celebrate their community and feel part of a group with its own identity. We build strong, authentic relationships that do not require outside programming to tell us all how to feel. I can say with 100% certainty that teaming at Middlesex provides support for struggling students, creates strong, safe, real relationships that foster learning, and celebrates each student for 3 years of their lives. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Erin McIntosh, you are unmuted and recognized.
Hi, good evening. My name is Erin McIntosh, Monroe, Connecticut. I'm an instructional aide at Oxridge. I'm going to share with you a day in the life of an Oxridge instructional aide. We offer daily student, individual, and small group work. We work with students on sight words, foundations, math, reading, writing, support, all in grades K through 5, individual and small group. We give feedback and conversation with classroom teachers on individual student progress and any need for additional support. We provide clerical support, which includes but not limited to daily and weekly student assigned classroom and homework grading, test and assessment grading, Chromebook work for grade 5, art project prep, field trip prep for grade K, creating and implementing grade level classroom libraries, organizing and maintaining grade level book rooms, organizing grade level learning pods, changing learning pods to support educational units being taught within the classroom, and any other tasks, educational tasks being asked by teachers, special teachers, or administration. We offer daily library support to include but not limited to assisting students to find grade level appropriate books of their interest, assist students with checking out books, shelving books, and covering books that are damaged. The instructional paras recover those books and put them back on the shelves. When scheduled, instructional paras cover SPED educational students when SPED paras are absent, whether it's a short period of time, a full day, or just in the cafeteria. Daily classroom coverage, amount of time changes daily. Everything from PPT to certified staff absences to missed prep periods for certified staff or just personal issues for certified staff. We respond to student needs. We support students through challenges and assist in facilitating peer problem solving and we are trusted adult communicators and relationships. We help with behavioral intervention as requested and needed. We have parent partnerships and we are trusted individuals. We collaborate with grade level teachers and support staff regarding all students. We have daily cafeteria and recess monitoring. We are the daily transport of the classes to and from specials, cafeteria, and anything else asked by grade level teachers and administrators. We do daily arrival and dismissal leads for parent, parking lot, buses, and in-school dismissal from the gym.
Thank you, Ms. McIntosh.
Michelle Furr, you are unmuted and recognized.
Good evening. I'm Michelle Forer. I'm from Bethel. As the art educator at Tokenique, my specific concerns are the cuts being proposed to the art positions at 4 of the 5 elementary schools, as well as the loss of our lead art teacher, Jacqueline Samus. The most recent cuts to the art department began last year. For our group, this is the second year that we see our program being pared down. It's been stated numerous times that the proposed changes will not affect the program that the students of Darien are receiving. With the utmost respect, I must wholeheartedly disagree. If the art teacher schedules are maxed out to the level Dr. Adley is describing, which would have to happen if the elementary art teachers are all brought down to a 0.8 FTE, there is no way the same high-level program can be delivered to the children of Darien. The logistical complexities of teaching a subject that comprises drawing, painting, collage, printmaking, ceramics, and fiber arts, to name a few, to 6 different grade levels with 0 passing time between classes is real. An entire prep can easily go to just setting up the materials and organizational systems essential to support an afternoon of 3 classes in a row. This does not even take into consideration the additional responsibilities of unloading and loading a kiln, setting up paint palettes, hanging artwork throughout the school, putting together school-wide art shows, managing supplies and artworks for over 400 students, creating visual aids to scaffold instruction, planning for early finishers, maintaining a clean and organized environment. Please tell me how the traveling art teachers will prep supplies, let alone do any of the other things an art teacher does at their second school. Here are a few ways the art program in Darien will be degraded by the proposed cuts. The breadth of materials our children will get to explore will be diminished, as well as the extent to which they engage with art making. Their hands-on time will be cut short because the students will now have to do more of the setup, the cleanup, and their own organization of work and materials during their already too short art class. Those days when your child can't come to school because they're sick, on vacation, or at an appointment, their class time is often made up on a teacher's prep, especially for high-value projects like clay and painting. This will also no longer be the reality. If someone misses clay day, then that year they simply won't do clay. One very real, decidedly impactful outcome to these cuts will be one elementary school not having their own art teacher. According to the Americans for the Arts, research has shown impressive benefits of arts education on the entire school culture, especially student motivation, attitudes, and attendance. What happens to the elementary school that's chosen to have a patchwork of art teachers instead of a dedicated individual who knows their students, knows their strengths and areas for growth? Please, don't tell me that the proposed cuts will not affect the students of Darien. This is simply not true. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Paula Sardoni, you are unmuted and recognized.
Thank you. Oh. Can you see me? I'm just trying to turn on the camera. Okay, good. I got it. All right. Thank you. So, well, thank you so much for all board members for the time spending on this budget. I appreciate you listening to all of us, and I hope you can see that the community is pretty unhappy with the proposal. But my point here would be, I would like to point out to you guys today that Darien is often ranked in the top 5 schools in the state. The struggle for me is to understand why we need to hire consultants all the time to tell us what we can do better if you're already ranking on the top 5 in the state. Perhaps we can teach them what we are doing well instead of us trying to find out what they have to improve on us. In order for us to save money in this budget, we should stop spending money in consultants and third parties and all these people who are coming here and telling us how to change. And then we could save money and try to keep our teachers and try to keep our aides and our art department and our music department. I see that sometimes it's hard time for this administration to appreciate the teachers that we have in place right now that have been helping us and have been very important to make us be the #1 in the state. You know, so we have to appreciate the teachers we have, the teachers that have been leading us to where we are right now. And it's very hard for this administration to see that. It's hard to see that we are not broken. We are fine. We don't need a fix. We should continue the way we are. We don't need to switch personnel. We don't need any more assistant principals. So I would like to close with the correlation that I see, that if we cut in personnel that we have right now, The only correlation we're going to have is going to be increase. We're not going to increase quality of education, but we'll decrease services for our kids. Thank you so much for your time, and please make the best decision for our kids.
Thank you.
Elite, you are unmuted and recognized.
Good evening. I am a professional harpist. I'm a music educator, and I'm a parent with 3 children spanning elementary, middle, and high school. I'm relatively new to Darien, so I don't pretend.
Sorry, can we get your name and address for the record? Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Ailey McCrae, 69 Sedgwick Avenue, Darien. Thank you. As I said, I'm very new to the area. However, I would earnestly appeal for your reconsideration regarding the proposed cuts of 1.8 FTE music positions. Drawing on my experience as a professional musician and a classroom educator in both elementary classroom and music, I understand the profound impact of music education on a student's development and also on their mental health. Having assisted in both strings and band programs in international schools, I can attest firsthand to the very specialized nature of these skills. You can turn up to a strings class and have every instrument out of tune. If you are trying to transfer other specialist teachers into an area that is not their expertise, it's not going to be of any benefit to the students. Trying to change strings, fix bridges, teach clarinet or saxophone fingerings when that is not your speciality is not a fun area. And when I was a substitute teacher and an elementary music teacher, I was thrown into all those areas. I can be helpful as a teacher, as a support mechanism to the students, but the high quality music instruction that you have from these specialized teachers is going to be diluted significantly. The intricacies of the instruments and the expertise in these areas are very different from the skills that it takes to be a general classroom music teacher, and your teachers will tell you that the two are not transferable. I cannot emphasize enough the diverse needs across the different age groups in schools. Already we have high school teachers who are specialist ensemble teachers working at the elementaries, moving between different schools. The logistics and the amount of administration on these teachers already is significant. Removing 2 positions or 1.8 FTE would not only disrupt the harmony within our educational system, but would really dilute the quality of the music program. My personal advice and professional background underscores the vital role of musical education in shaping well-rounded individuals. Preserving these positions ensures that our students receive specialized instruction and mentorship that contribute to their academic and personal growth.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Josh Thornton, you are unmuted and recognized.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. My name is Josh Thornton. I'm at 10 Garden City Road, and I'm also a math teacher at Middlesex. I was actually recently brought in this year amidst a teacher shortage to fill a position. And as an educator in the team model, to me, it's just been such an enlightening way to get to understand these kids, the efficiency of our team and our PLCs working together every day gives us such an insight to these kids that we can be, on top of any issues that arise, and any movement away from the team model into the rainbow teacher, rainbow student kind of takes away from that ability. I know it's your guys' job to be efficient in having the right number of people. But I just see it as such a great way in in the ability to gauge the kid's social emotional learning. And for us as a teacher, it's, you know, the content is important, but the kids and their well-being is hugely important. And I appreciate the ability to do that within the team model. So thank you.
Thank you for your time.
There are no more raised hands at this time.
Thank you all for your commentary. It's appreciated. With that, I'll move on to the superintendent's report. Alan.
Okay, in deference to the time, I will be brief. Thank you to the members of the community and to our staff who are here tonight, and also online. Your participation and voice is very much appreciated. Thank you to the members again of community at large and our staff who participated in the community focus groups. They were last week. They ran successfully. We will receive the feedback from the facilitator in time for our February 28th communications committee meetings. But again, I just want to thank people, and particularly the members of the community groups that gave up their time. We shared out the Footloose for all the art people, people who support the arts on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So hopefully you get a wee chance to attend. Thank you also to the members of our steering committee, Jacqueline Samus and Colleen Thompson, for their dedication and meticulous preparation for our tri-state visit, which is next week. Members of the board would have received their invitations today, and a wee bit of information about it. But again, Jacqueline is here this evening, and I think Colleen is probably online. Thank you both for your leadership. It's very much appreciated. Just a wee announcement that we were asked to announce this, and we came in today or yesterday. This is a state and national conversation about literacy at the Legislative Office. CDSC, Yukon, Hill Literacy High, and the NAACP will all be participating. It's open to the public. It's from 1 to 4 o'clock. That's Thursday, January 25th at the Legislative Buildings in Hartford. We'll try and see if CTN is videoing it. They are. So my suggestion to you is you watch it in CTN because it'll be a long trip up in the afternoon. And I'll just remind people for the public hearing on January 30th, and I'll leave the announcements there.
Thank you. January 30th.
30th, sorry. I thought you said 3rd.
That's okay. Well, that's a good clarification.
Okay. Student representative reports.
Good evening, everyone. So as of right now, things are moving slower at the high school. We just finished our midterms. Our final makeup day was yesterday. So that was the end of testing for the majority of students. So we're transitioning into Q3 or semester 2. And that means for seniors specifically, we're starting to look for our internships, like contacting local companies.
Yeah, and our music department is gearing up for a couple of major events. Our band is gearing up for our biannual field trip to Nashville, and Theater 308 is up and running with our production of Hello Dolly.
Thank you both very much.
Jill.
Yes.
I think there was also some quiz bowl celebrations to have. I think we had some success in middle school, and we have kids that are going on to nationals and even international competitions. So congratulations to our quiz bowl.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Approval of the minutes. May I have a motion to approve the following minutes of the special meeting held on January 4th, 2024, minutes of the regular meeting held on January 6th, 2024, and minutes of the special meeting and regular meeting held on January 9th, 2024, and minutes of the special meeting held on January 18th, 2024. That's Julie, seconded by Dennis. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Okay. Board committee reports.
Curriculum committee met, I don't have the date in front of me, but Dr. Fennon's going to run through a very quick, brief overview of what we talked about for 2 hours later this evening.
Okay, great. Julie.
Thank you. Policy met last Friday, reviewed a handful of policies for the first time that the committee has elected to look at again in committee before we move anything further, forward. Our next meeting is February 9th.
Thank you. Anyone else?
And finance met last Thursday, and there's 4 transfers for consideration that the committee recommended for approval.
Great. And HHR was secured its last appropriation last night at the RTM. We'll hear more about that in just a few minutes. Okay. That'll move on to presentations and discussions, update on the Hanley Homes and Royal Building Project. Chris Price, who is the co-chair along with myself. Thank you also to Sarah Newman and David Martin for being here.
Good evening. My name is Chris Price. I am co-chair of the Hindley Homes and Royal Building Committee. I'm not going to talk about anything relating to the budget, so I'll give you guys a little bit of a break. As Jill mentioned, David Martin is here. He's one of our committee members and is also the liaison to the Board of Finance. Sarah Newman is a building committee member and liaison to the Board of Selectmen. And Jill is my co-chairman on the building committee. What I thought would be helpful was to briefly summarize, excuse me, what's gone on with the Hindley Homes and Royal Building Committee since this board last considered the project about a year ago. What I'll do is go through, this presentation is largely the same presentation that we have given to the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, and then most recently last evening to the RTM. Board of Selectmen approved an increased appropriation. Board of Finance approved the same increased appropriation, and then RTM voted on that and approved it last night. Once I've gone through the presentation, I would be happy to take questions. So we start from the original charge given to the building committee by the Board of Selectmen now almost 2.5 years ago, August of 2021, which was for the committee to be formed to oversee the renovation and construction at the 3 elementary schools and to renovate them in accordance with the ed specs that had been adopted by this Board of Education in May of 2021. The building committee was then formed in February of 2022. So translated, what does that committee charge mean? Really, there were a couple of key drivers. Next slide for whoever's running the slide deck. Me. Wow. Okay. Let's see what happens when I push this button. There we go. Look at that. So what are the drivers behind that charge and behind our mandate? First and foremost, elimination of the temporary classrooms. Temporary classrooms were designed to have a useful life of between 9 and 10 years. The temporaries that are at the 3 schools now are over 20 years old and are badly deteriorated. Also to renovate or build new libraries and general learning commons. 2 of the schools are slated to get brand new libraries. Holmes is slated to get a renovated library because the base library there is in pretty good shape. Also to correctly size certain classrooms, both general use classrooms and special subject classrooms to the state specifications. And then a large part of this project, unfortunately, it's not something that you're going to necessarily see a lot of, but I think is going to improve the environment for the kids and the teachers, is to update outdated systems, primarily putting central air conditioning in all the schools, updating electrical, updating Wi-Fi technology, the building envelopes, and new roofs on all 3 of the schools. This question has come up: why are we renovating and not building new schools? That was decided actually before the building committee was formed. It was part of the original charge. The original charge was to renovate. That was based on a 2016 existing condition study, which determined that the schools were basically in pretty good shape. The original construction of these schools was very, very solid. They'd been maintained very, very well, a testament to the facilities department that's now being run by Kevin Monrette, and in particular since the last major renovations. Also, the schools sit in a good position on their campuses. They're efficient, and then ultimately cost was an important factor. And then, as I noted just a second ago, the portables are just not in great shape. They're way past their useful life. The idea is that these schools, once renovated, should have a useful life of between 25 and 30 years. So since this board last considered this project, I'll take you through what's happened. In the spring of 2023, working with our very, very capable professional team, KG&D Architects and ONG AP, our construction manager, we completed construction drawings and updated the cost estimates, did an initial round of bids based on those construction drawings in the summer of 2023. We weren't happy ultimately with the results of that bid process. The bids we received exceeded our estimates by about 25%, and we thought that there was lower participation than we would have ideally seen. Ideally, we'd like to get at least 3 trades bidding, 3 contractors bidding for each trade package. We decided to hold 7 of the bids out of 19 and to go and rebid 12 of the 19 packages in hopes of getting greater participation and hopefully lower bids. We did consider value engineering aspects of the project. We thought long and hard about that. Again, working with our professionals, we decided against doing that. We really do want to have the best school project, the best schools that we can build, considering again that these are renovations. We got new bids in November of 2023, so about 3 months or so ago. We had greater participation. We did slightly better in terms of pricing. We improved by about a little over 2%. I think it did validate the bidding results from the summer. I think in particular, by virtue of having gotten greater participation, we did hit the at least 3 bidders for every package. Again, working with our professional team, they recommended that we keep that in addition to the 7 bids from the summer that we had agreed to hold, that we now accept the 12 other packages that were rebid. And something to note here, just to step aside for a second, I know some of you may be involved in construction or have done projects personally. The way projects like this work is we are required by state law to accept the lowest, quote, qualified bid. All of the bidders had to be pre-qualified by the state. And once they cross that hurdle, we then are required to take the lowest bidder. So we don't have the ability to negotiate with particular trade contractors. We couldn't, for example, say, well, this contractor is known to be best in class. Gee, the job is yours if you cut your price by 10%. These are sometimes called rip and read bids. So you open them, lowest bid wins. So, I mean, and again, it's sort of an open book process because especially when we went to rebid, the numbers that had been bid during the summer had been opened publicly. And so the trades were aware of what the bids were. Net, and we talked at great length about this with Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and then ultimately with the RTM. We saw that the costs on a per school basis, if you look at the bottom line, the costs on a per school basis, about 5.9 million increase for Hindley, about an $8 million increase for Holmes, about a 4.9 increase for Royal, over and above where we thought we were in November of 2022 for an aggregate increase of about $19.2 million. That additional appropriation, as Jill noted earlier, and I said at the beginning of this presentation, has been approved by Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance, and the RTM. What that really means is where we stand today is with that additional appropriation approved, we're ready to go. There's a statutory 10-day rescission period once the RTM votes on an appropriation. So rolling forward, once we hit February 1st, all the contracts can be awarded. Our general contractor can enter into a guaranteed maximum price contract with the town. We are scheduled to start work as soon as the school year ends this coming spring. Target completion would be by the beginning of the school year in 2026. Important to know, we went through this last spring. I see some familiar faces, faculty members at the elementary schools. We went through the phasing plan that our construction managers had worked up. really important to note that while work will be going on during the school year in some cases, a lot of the really heavy work, site prep, demolition, excavation, that type of stuff is going to be done in the summer. Work that's going to be done during the school year, very, very thoughtful plan about doing that work in such a way as to be the least disruptive possible to the teachers and to the kids in the schools. Where did we come up with the additional 19 million? And we can go through this. I mean, you guys have the information. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this. Some of this was attributable to town approvals after this board had approved the project. In particular, planning and zoning asked us to refine and think harder about our stormwater management plan. I know in particular folks at Hindley and Holmes, when there's a big rainstorm, those fields get pretty wet. We had to do additional stormwater detention work at both Hindley and Holmes. We had to screen the dumpsters and move them around, where we decided to remove at Holmes in the parking lot an underground storage tank that is, most importantly, not leaking. Visual screening of the rooftop HVAC equipment, moving the generator at Royal, and then a lot of the MEP system upgrades by virtue of putting in the new roofs and putting in new mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. Ceiling tiles are going to have to be replaced more extensively. And the other thing is, and hopefully some of the teachers will appreciate this, in those places where we're building new at the 3 schools, they're going to construct basements. And that's going to, one, be where some of the new HVAC is housed, but it's also going to provide some additional storage. So overused storage closets and hallways will be freed up. Let's see. Also, another thing was there was some additional expansion of scope with regard to campus security. Security window film treatments were required on all of the schools, and also adding entrance vestibules and lobby work, in particular at Holmes. We also had a couple of alternates that we considered and that we thought were important to the overall project. Added some new acoustic ceilings and lighting in the cafeterias, some additional parking. As I noted, removing the underground fuel tank at Holmes, expanding the bus plaza at Hindley so the buses aren't, fewer buses at least, are queued down near water, and putting in skylights at Royal to add some more natural light into that building. Also, the fact that there was an 11-month delay to the start of construction, we attribute about a $2.9 million increase to that. Escalation, it's a market escalation figure calculated at about 4.8% annually. And of course, when the hard costs go up, construction fees, insurance, bonding go with it, because those are all calculated on a percentage basis. Talked about that. Let's see. Contingencies, these are our protections, if you will. We have guaranteed maximum price contracts with our construction managers. We believe that we have a really, really good handle on what the costs are going to be to do this project. There's been a tremendous amount of diligence done around things like soils, what's behind the walls, what's in the ceilings. But we have contingencies to account for those unknowns if they come up. In particular, an owner's contingency, there's a 5% owner's contingency, which we feel is a market contingency for a project like this. Not sure if I can read that. I did go to the eye doctor the other day.
I think that's something else.
That's the next one.
What is that? Is
That's
that for
not
some-
yours. You're off.
I'm sorry?
That's not yours.
Oh, good. Okay. And then ultimately, look, there were some factors that went into this increase that you can't put hard dollar numbers on. They're not specifically quantifiable. The construction business is somewhat overwhelmed, overextended. So getting contractors to bid, they're busy and they're being selective in what they bid on. We did compare our bid results to other school projects as well as other public projects that are subject to a similar type of a bid process. And ultimately, came to the realization that we're not out of the market, if you will, in terms of the number of bidders and the kind of pricing that we got. With that, I am happy to take questions from both that side and that side.
Just this side.
Just this side? Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
Any board questions? No. Thank
John?
you for all your work.
Yeah, it was first, thank you. And thank you out there for all the work you guys did for the town on the building committee. I know it's a lot of work, 2 bids, and I think the kids are going to be much better for it. If you could just walk through quickly the timeline now, what the expectations of what comes next, if you will.
So what comes next? I mentioned the 10-day rescission period, keeping my fingers crossed very tightly that there's no rescission on the appropriation. At that point, the guaranteed maximum price amendment will be effective. The trades will be lined up and ready to start work. Again, as soon as school is over, there'll be some purchasing of materials, storage of materials, things like that. There'll be initial work to get things like construction fencing, construction entrances, I think playgrounds being moved, things like that. Then actual site prep work will start in the spring of 2024. And then I don't have it with me, but there's a fairly detailed phasing plan that we can provide that the construction managers put together in terms of how they're going to phase the work at each of the campuses. Important to note, I should have mentioned this earlier, all 3 schools are going to be renovated simultaneously. There's going to be a project supervisor at each of the schools, and there'll be a trailer at each of the schools, and the work will go on simultaneously. So ideally, none of the schools will be ahead or behind when it comes time to start school in fall of 2026. Like I said, a lot of heavy work will be done this summer, next summer, also Christmas break. Less of the very, very heavy equipment work will be done during the school years.
Thank you.
Others?
Anyone else? No.
Just
All
have to resubmit or update to the State Department of Education, the Office of Grants and Management, these new numbers.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you, Dr. Adley. The aggregate 101 million plus is total project hard and soft costs. Important to note that a goodly portion of this project is going to be funded by state grants. Dave Martin has been really, really on top of that aspect of the project, and we expect 17-ish%, did you say?
PCR, phase 2 PCR, what we received in March. The way the formula works.
David, yeah.
Sorry.
The way the formula works is there is a fixed reimbursement rate, and then the state determines what % of the total project cost is deemed to be eligible costs. In the March PCR report that we received, the phase 2 report, 92% and change of our project was deemed to be reimbursable. The reimbursement rate for renovation is 20.7%. So that means that we would receive somewhere between $15 and $19 million.
Thank you. Dennis.
Just one last clarification on your timeline. So the
We are back on.
We are on the contract agreement between the Darien Board of Education and the United Public Service Employees Union paraprofessionals for the period July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2026.
So this is a 3-year agreement. I would like to thank Richard and Marge on behalf of the board and also the representatives from the paraprofessional union. This represents about 157 employees, dedicated and hardworking employees that representing that union. The general wage increase proposed was over the 3 years, first year 3.25, second year 3, and the third year 2.75 for an 8.70 over the course of the salary agreement. Something in this is really a new salary grid that has been negotiated for employees hired after February 1st. That will reduce the current grid by 14%, and in short, realizes a $200,000 savings for this year's budget, and over the course of the agreement, a savings of $400,000 to the board. So those are really the details. There is a one-time appreciation bonus of $500 per paraprofessional, a 1% increase in the premium share, and it's a new salary agreement.
Okay. With that, any questions? We have, okay. May I have a motion to approve the contract agreement between the Darien Board of Education and the United Public Service Employees Union paraprofessionals for the period July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2026. That's Dennis, seconded by Julie. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. And thank you to all those paraprofessionals. Okay. With that, we will move on to the curriculum update 24-25 curriculum priorities. Dr. Fettigan.
Good evening, everyone. As indicated, we had a very robust conversation, a very comprehensive review of our curriculum priorities anticipated for the 24-25 school year during the January 11th curriculum committee meeting. So tonight I'll just simply provide an overview and some highlights of that discussion. First and foremost, Michelle's getting this queued up. There we go. First and foremost, one of the things that we always want to talk about when we talk about curriculum is alignment to our work within the district. So we know that curriculum is written according to frameworks and established standards, the state and national level. And in Darien Public Schools, we're always writing the curriculum with the vision of the graduate, which is an end goal, an end outcome for our system in mind, and aligning the work to the strategic plan and core values. It's really important to know that in Darien Public Schools, our curriculum is written, it's not a boxed program approach. Our curriculum is written by our expert educators, administrators, and teachers, written by and for our staff, responsive to the needs of our students. One of the things that you'll hear me and our team, our teaching and learning team, talk about all the time is the relationship between curriculum and instruction and assessment and professional learning. So curriculum really represents the what we teach. The instruction is how, right? How we implement the curriculum, and the assessment is how we measure student learning outcomes, how we measure the effectiveness of our curriculum. All of that needs to be supported with continuous and ongoing professional learning. And as you see here, there's a graphic that represents the different things, the different kind of cornerstones of our work with regard to curriculum, and how our professional learning is really aimed at creating a through line between student learning outcomes all the way up toward the district level. Something that we talked at length about during our curriculum committee meeting was the need to have a curriculum revision cycle, or I should say curriculum writing and revision cycle. And we do talk very often about our work in EduPlanet and making sure that we have a transparent sharing of our curriculum. But beyond the work in EduPlanet, the work of writing curriculum is much more dynamic and is something that we need to be thinking about to project the work of the district years out. So typically when we look at curricula, we think about, is there an impetus for change? So would there be a need to make a change within the curriculum? There are obvious examples of that recently with regard to literacy. There are new social studies standards, for example, also that were just recently approved. So those would be two examples of an impetus for change that would require us to look at the curricula, see what we have that meets our needs, that meets the standards, meets statutory obligations, and then consider if any adjustments need to be made. So in that first year, we would establish goals. That's what you would expect to see as far as an update in EduPlanet with regard to the big picture scope and sequence for a unit. And then we move into year 2, where we start to think about learning experiences that will happen within each unit of instruction and how we would assess our learners. Year 3 would be the final implementation to the level of lesson plans, and then we would go into a continuous cycle of reflecting, evaluating, and responding to the curricula. One of the things I'd like to draw everyone's attention to is the work of the vision of the graduate being central, those outcomes being central to the work of curriculum design. We've also heard a little bit tonight that we do write curriculum in this district in a framework of universal, UBD, understanding by design. And that's approach that our team in Darien has been very well supported in learning. And also there's much discussion and thinking about, and Shirley and I will help to facilitate and lead this work together, how as we write curriculum moving forward, we can do so through the lens of universal design for learning. And that's really around providing access for all of our learners at the design level of writing a curricula before we even think about implementation in the classroom and having every student and staff member represented. I want to thank our department chair team. We've spent much of my last few months being in Darien Public Schools together with that team working on this. There's a lot of work that goes behind what appears to be a simple graphic with regards to the philosophy of curriculum writing, and they've spent a great deal of time and really intentional thought in that area. This should help us think about curriculum from like a 30,000 foot view. So what is all the way up through grade 12 across all of the departments within the system. It should also help us professional learning needs and also how we might forecast needs within the budget when we think about work that will. This slide just really shows some of the primary considerations or some kind of curricular design that would be considered at each area of unit development. And that's that overarching unit plan, big picture thinking. Stage 2 is more, and stage 3 is at a deeper level, how units are sequenced and lessons are designed. Slides that follow are the curriculum priorities that are identified for the 24-25 school year and in earlier presentations to curriculum committee and the board. It goes without saying that in the year ahead will certainly center upon literacy, our continued work in mathematics, expectations of vision of the graduate to the elementary level, so that is a pre-K through 12. Each of the following areas in the 6-12 departments, you can see what, with regard to that portion of curriculum development, which is the initial curriculum is already in process and where we are really well implemented. So in the budget book, there's also a list of requests and proposed funds for the budget needs to write curriculum at state be considered needs for ongoing curriculum work or any curriculum work related to. Again, as follows, you can see the work. It was referenced tonight that we have in world language, Enduring 8 and ASL, and ongoing curricular work in other courses. We have new standards that were established. One of the questions that Mr. Keeler last week or 2 weeks ago now, the January 11th meeting was, with the new standard. And that's not the case. We are very confident that the standards are already. We'll do a gap analysis with our staff. Curriculum priorities across the courses. Inclusive. Similarly for English. Approve pending budget approval, of course, some new courses. Which our team is very excited about. K-12 music opportunity. Grade 3, developing music scope and sequence work, thinking of review and revision, and new curriculum for new high school course. Thinking about the curriculum development in each of these areas, the department chairs have also identified to support the curriculum work that's happening for implementation. And requested budgetary funds for curriculum design and development, again, which is what will be anticipated to be going live in EduPlanet. What's the and the work related to the new courses as proposed, and all of that is referenced on the. That was a very abbreviated version of a really robust conversation from January 11th that I would encourage people to tune into.
Dave.
Just quickly, you mentioned the edge that going, or where does that stand at this point? Was it 75% done, 80%, 95? Just other questions. You mentioned changes to social studies. Can you give a brief example if you don't know off the top of your head?
I didn't hear the full second question, but you want to repeat maybe?
Yeah, just you meant. Can you give a brief example of one of those? And if you don't happen to have one.
Sure. With regard to the first question, I'm happy to report departments wrote curriculum differently for breadth each of the departments. So some curricula was written stage 1, 2, and 3 across the within a course, just stage 1. If that makes sense. So I have a very good handle now, and so does the entire team, of where we are. And several courses and units where stage 1 is complete in EduPlanet. So I expect in very short order to be able to come curriculum committee meeting and talk about a go live launch date with a very clear courses and units within the courses are.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And that curriculum revision cycle will help us anticipate when the board can expect updates. And with regard to the social studies curricula, there's changes that the board has already been apprised of that would be an example. Courses that need to be offered. They don't necessarily need to be taken by all students, but so for, I think what some of those courses are. Mr. Keeler and review. I have not been a part of that work at the state level, but moving forward.
Thanks, Amy. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Thanks again for the presentation. I know we went through the meeting. I would just reiterate, for me, I think it'd be really helpful in terms of subject areas to see not just the list of the classes that they're taking. Is that for an AP class, is that the number of 5s that they get? Is that the number? Some kind of measurable objective that we can look at to see over time, are we from a teaching perspective and from a student actually, getting the course.
Thank you. There are both qualitative and quantitative measures that I believe both the AP standards are very clear, but additionally, each of the will also reference information about assessments and standards that will.
Thank you very much. All right. We'll move on. Discussion regarding the 2024 budget and discussion about a budget modification. So I think we'll start by, we received another. Anybody would like to specifically highlight an area where they want clarification? I'll give people a chance to do that, and then we'll move on to the discussion of.
Well, if we may, we'll pull up January 18th question. Roll out or update you on really the ELP program. We did feel when we the timing of it and the relative on that was made. However, we would still like to keep the 4 and 5 days. Each of these answers to these questions for the ELP pull up in a moment. But ultimately what we're saying is a 5-day program, and we'll give people a 4-day option. That's the right thing to do for kids for the 5 days, but we'll give people a 7-day fee structure that was on the website, even though that it would be set here at a board level. But what was posted 75, what we had proposed for the 5-day was 11.5. We will proposal that we remain at, but we would accommodate those parents who are finding a place at this particular point or otherwise transition to 5 days for a full 5-day program. Sort of prevents the sort of questions per se, but I'll be happy to go through these. Right,
in
unless you have a
detail, given
question.
the hour
No,
and
unless
the,
you have a
and
question,
the, where we are in the or clarifications. Otherwise, go ahead, Julie.
On just, can you explain what's baked into that as far as enrollment expectations? That the loss in tuition would bring the budget from 6.19 to 6.24. Some of the FTE additions required if we weren't running not a 5. And I also didn't understand the with collecting tuition.
To reduce any of the paraprofessionals are primarily there for the special education. Based on Laura's feedback, it's assuming 15 students choose the 4-day-a-week option. The 5-day-a-week option. In terms of the fee, to take 2 different tuition fees. So for parents to pay online, we're not set up that way on the back end to be able to accommodate that. So we need to redesign the portal to be able to do that. And that's what the $2,500 is.
Means that this means students with IEPs would all is what's built into this.
Correct. So 15
and,
paying students
okay.
would be 4 days.
Change any more questions on that specifically?
I guess I just have questions about the logistics of it, but I don't know that it's a budget question, but would there be students versus would they be scattered through? And again, maybe not of it.
Yeah, quick question.
I can just do a quick yeah, that it would depend on the enrollment of how many students are coming, whether it be a dedicated 3, older 4 or 5s, but it'll be on who's choosing 4 days and who's choosing 5 days.
Dennis.
Yeah, I would just like to thank the administration. This was one of my ad cuts, and I think in talking with people, a lot of us had to say, thank you.
Zoom, so there's no point me talking to people on Zoom out there because they can't hear me. So is it the Wi-Fi here? Okay, well, it's not going to make a difference of resetting them. So I don't.
There's a disruption at the state level through CEN. So until that.
Okay, we'll just have to proceed.
Being filmed though, so somebody could watch it later, correct?
With the 5-second pause.
Okay. Good. All right. Questions on the January 18th document?
I have a question, and this is getting into the department chair and I have questions. Just one question in the for me. I understand what you're saying about the department chair role that they do, but when you get into the measures of success, principles, increased instructional leadership by co-facilitating curricula and professional learning. That was the first question is, isn't that the work of the department chair role, and how? Because I guess I'm not really understanding. Seems like they're starting to blend together in some way, unless it's more of a man and kind of that sort of coordination.
And our assistant principals need to be instructional leaders. Yes, see the curriculum, but as our assistant for special education, regular education in PPTs, they also need to bring into the expertise and instructional leadership around the building, from instructional discussions with department chairs. They actually need to be experts in the curriculum, and in order to actually and our department chairs with the implementation of curriculum.
Are the principals, do they evaluate and do the teachers report to them, or do they report in?
They report to the building principal.
To the building principal, okay. And then just principal role, because the measures of success do not mention anything that currently is a very, very large portion of the job. If you're looking to say, how do we measure success? How does that role end up being measured?
Sure, Shirley's tipping in there.
I can answer the PBT, but I think Robin's question was, if we're right, and we're basically the internet's down. But I think if the question was worded piece to work with curriculum and instruction. Is that the one?
No,
that
Measures of success.
what are the measures of success for any assistant principals? Supports the following question as well about development of curriculum. I think in all of our conversations that also the distribution of PPTs among APs in the high school would better access time for the APs to be doing.
All right, thank you. I have a question. This is on the data measurement of the PPT and 504. Since the state system now does not support that, do we have an option to use IEP Direct and 504 Direct so that we can track the meetings?
Respond to that? No, we don't. We maintain IP Direct. We have historic to when we switched over to Connecticut SEDS. So we're to 2022. What we are hoping is that as Connecticut friendly, it has more opportunity. But right now we don't.
So you think that they will end up adding that?
They're going to do, I would hope they're going to do, but I can say we might have to do our own. We don't have an option.
Could we track them the way we track services? In Aspen or?
You would do, but you could do a Google. I don't know. We haven't spoken about it. Do it, but we probably would do it in a calendar.
Because they're not doing it now, right?
Right.
So
You can go back and count invitations. You know, there's different ways to do it. So we'll find don't know the answer yet, though.
Sorry, I have another question. Scheduling chart for Middlesex that was a little bit further down. Team classes. I would like to similar to this also for math, and I understand math, but it would be really helpful just to see the impact on the teachers, the different levels of math. And then likewise, this other chart that was
over and above the numbers that were given for math.
well, they didn't include. It would just be helpful to see that. And then also for accelerated English as well. And I know it doesn't have cuts, but it's how many of the classes are being taught and just the same information.
Accelerated English, when do we stop running that?
It's currently an 8th grade course.
But aren't we decommissioning it? Got it. Thank you.
It's not. I'm sorry. Thank you, Shirley. For further discussion at curriculum work in the area of curriculum for our 9th grade course offering.
Thank you.
Just one, Jill, one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I know we had this chart, and I don't know if this was in that same packet. This is the Middlesex 5-year
Yes,
projected.
yes, yes.
Can I ask a question about that then?
Yeah, of
too?
You can, yes.
So in the 5-year projection, as I looked at this and the reductions in the numbers of sections and then how it's impacting the teachers, the question I have is, are all teachers then going to be needing to move between teaching different grade level classes and different courses subject to the section changes on a year-by-year basis? And do our existing teachers do that currently? And do they have the expertise to say teach 6th grade science versus 8th grade science, or, all of those different subjects if the section changes are happening probably at some point over the summer? So I'm just trying to understand how this would work, because it looks like, similar to what we do with elementary, that section changes on a year-to-year basis are going +1, -1, across grades, across subjects. And it's just kind of unclear to me how that works from a teaching standpoint.
So you may have a teacher who, first of all, the teachers are certified for all those grade levels in the actual middle school. And you may have a teacher at each of the subjects who will teach across a grade level, potentially across different grade levels. That's plausible.
So they would be potentially teaching a 6th grade class and an 8th grade class and being in two different teams in those two different grades?
They could be, yeah. And that particular chart, you see how that particular 5-year chart plays out enrollment wise?
Anyone else?
So the next set of questions we had, we may not have to touch. They were the RTM questions, and they came through again. They came through as another set of RTM questions. I don't know if you want to talk about them or not.
Any questions from that set of? No, okay.
Okay, with that, there was a set that came in January 23rd, board questions. They talked really about some of the professional development, what is ALT, responsive classroom questions, and FTE salaries for some of the positions we're talking about. So if we can get that up right there, I don't know if the board has had time clearly to look at that. You probably have not, but they're there, they're new. I'll pause there for a while if you want to. I think you're good. You're there. Thank you very much, Michelle.
So these were some clarifications, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I think we can take a look at those offline, and anybody can follow up next meeting with questions or in the interim. Okay. Unless somebody has something right this minute. Great. Okay. Thank you. Right, you want to kick off the?
Yes, again,
budget
I would just,
modifications?
before we go into the questions, or before we go into each of the RCs, I just state again that what we're trying to do this is through the budget is to deliver on instruction and curriculum, interventions for students, mental health supports, and yes, retention of staff through efficiencies the enrollment and administrative restructuring. I would like to put up, if you don't mind, just before we get started, just a sort of sample worksheet that Richard will be keeping. If you look at this worksheet here, simply what it says is, for tonight, board members don't need to worry about particular numbers, what goes with one number, another number. Richard will put it together. We'll send out the working interactive worksheet tomorrow. We will be able to get that out. But if you look at this particular section, the 18 and the 25 just outlines the two respective line items that would be changed with the contract that we've just adopted with the paraprofessionals. So I'm assuming that's a saving that people would want to take. So we could take that right off the top this evening, and those would be the two that would be impacted. If that's not the case, I can't imagine why it would be the case for that. But anyway, the next section, the next big block, is all the changes associated with moving the administrators around, the two assistant principals, all the special education services administration that is designed. So if you touch one of these, you're essentially going to change all of them. And so therefore, Richard would make those changes. Now you could say, well, can we just make sure that we can't pick one separately or not? But I'm just saying these are the changes that go with all administrative changes. So if you decide to revert back, then all of these sort of revert back, and those would be the changes we would make, unless for some reason you wanted to look at it in a different way. But I'm just pointing that out. The next one is sort of the elementary leadership stipends that have been changed. And so if those were to revert back, we would make the changes for the elementary art supervision. Then the curriculum leadership is below. The ELP tuition is based on what we just proposed this evening. If that was okay, that would be then there's the additional monies to the budget. And the consultant services is $20,000 that we had in the budget on the budget for the consultant, not anticipating that the charge was up front now. So we took that back out of the budget. That's not necessary. So that's a $20,000.
That's the scheduling consultant.
That's a scheduling consultant, yes. So there's $20,000 returned to the budget for that. So on one simple level, Richard will make the changes with any change, but those were just highlighted ones for the moment, if that makes sense for people, just for an overview.
Okay, so before we jump in, I don't know if the students want to stay for all of this or if they would like to bug out. It's almost 10. They're welcome to. Although certainly either way, whatever you prefer. We're going to go through the budget line by line. Well, we won't go through every line, but we're going to talk about.
If you decide to stay, you can slip out, but you might want to go to But up to you guys. If you want to stay and listen, you're more than welcome to do so. But you can leave at any given point.
Okay. So just to clarify here, Alan, you've got several different admin cuts that you all are putting forward. So the first one is the contract that we just voted on, so that stays. On the bottom there, you have a counter proposal for ELP tuition. So you've identified what the line item adjustment would be, and also you are pulling out. You're not proposing $20,000 going forward for consultant services. So those are three things you all are putting forward. You have grouped that whole set of principles or that whole administrative. So I think before we go RC by RC, my guess is that we probably want to just say there's a recommendation to everybody's going to want to look at the impact of reverting back to the current structure, that should stay in the ad cut list. There's not really any need to identify each of those necessarily as we go through the RC, meaning meaning that instead of in RC1 saying add the assistant principal, add the department chair, in RC3 add the assistant principal, RC3 add the department chair, he's just grouped it so we can see the total impact of the administrative restructure. So I am fairly certain from hearing from board members that there are questions still about the administrative restructure, and that there will be a desire to put all of those on technically the ad list, or sort of the ad cut, depending on who they are. Is that correct? Are you guys Go ahead, Greg, and then Dave.
I just want to clarify, for that section,
Yeah.
am I understanding what Dr. Adley said correctly, that like if you change one of these, then everything changes back?
From my perspective and from the minister's perspective, yes, because this was presented as for the one that sounds bad, a package deal in terms of, because one affects the other.
Dave.
Just from a workflow perspective here, having this list pop up now and having RC by RC marked up, it's going to be a little tough to reconcile. So I just apologize in advance when I step on something that's already up here, because
sure.
this just showed up on a screen.
Sure. Julie?
I think I'm having trouble understanding that if you change one, they all must change. For example, department chair seems like it could be discussed discreetly, separate from the rest of that list. So while I appreciate this effort, I would still prefer to discuss things item by item, recognizing that at the end of the day, I'm not the one who gets to deploy the dollars specifically, but I don't understand why.
Well, there's two different things happening. I'll answer this. For the purposes of tonight, we're just identifying what goes on the list. And so at that point, all of these items just go on the list automatically. They don't have to be identified tonight. For the purpose of deliberation, which will be subsequent evenings, we're not going to sit around and deliberate all of these tonight. We're going to have to discuss some of these positions specifically.
Ms. Best would be correct in the sense of, for instance, if you want to put the world language position back in over and above the other positions as well, okay, you could do, yes.
Okay, I just
So the block is to remain FTE neutral. But
Correct.
If we did not want to continue to be FTE neutral, we could add.
Yes, but the special education and the assistant principals are tightly knit together, right? And some of the other, department head positions and the new program director positions are all tightly tied together.
Okay.
I know it's complicated, but.
I mean, it's just basically you brought forth an administrative restructuring plan with many elements.
Correct.
That's
it,
so
yeah.
you've grouped those elements now.
Yeah.
And then when we go to the true vote night, we might want to unbundle some of those elements as a board member. Okay, or try to within them. Rich or you will say, well,
if we
it's
do
almost
this, then we need
right,
that.
Right.
Okay. All right. With that, we'll open the budget books, RC1.
I would like to add back the world language preparatory chair. Are we saying that out loud tonight, or are we? Okay. All right. Please put that back in. Okay.
Anything else in RC1, Dave?
This may conflict with your list, Rich, so sorry for the extra homework. 21102, assistant principal, reduction of 222, 324, which is going to be implicated here with a few other ones, obviously. Also 21413, reduction 21,667.
Can you just say what it is?
21413, wellness coordinator, reduction of 21,667. 101003, clubs and councils, reduction of 20%, 55,063 and 73 cents. Consultant services, 12001, reduction of $96,500. 25002, professional library purchase, reduction $350. 25003, professional development, reduction of $16,565. Thank you.
Anyone else in RC1? Greg, Julie, Katie.
I would just, I have the same one as Dave, but I think the dollar amount is different.
Is different, then identify it if the dollar amount is different.
It's the 21102 assistant principal. The dollar amount that's in this is different than in the follow-up materials that Dr. Adley provided in terms of the dollar of the FTE. So I would use the other dollar amount, which is
That's fine. Rich can
So
figure that
the
out.
dollar amount you see in the budget also includes the contractual increases for the existing APs.
Yeah, there was a document that was circulated.
Wasn't it also with the healthcare insurance?
So it has healthcare and
Yeah.
benefits. So in the document on the screen, you see
So
the
the full
individual line.
amount
Yep.
is the follow-up had a larger dollar amount? That's
It includes the
dollar
fringe,
amount
which is
that
shown
I
on the
would-
spreadsheet.
So for Rich, for these, do you want us to just reference the position and you will increase the benefits
Yep, you can just-
accordingly? And,
yep.
okay.
Okay. So I would just say one FTE.
Me, thanks. 102,007 is student parking fees. I wasn't certain if we had looked at what we charge students who start driving in the spring, the juniors, when they're allowed to park on campus, and if we're raising that, I don't think it's a significant amount, but whatever we've done. with
So
the-
it's everybody, it just gets prorated for when they start.
Okay, so it will get raised as well, just prorated. Thank you. So that's in there.
Katie?
I just had a clarifying question. So Sarah, when you were adding back the world language, I saw that the department chairs were listed at like 0.8 in the high school and 0.2 in the middle school. So it doesn't matter. Is that what you're saying? Okay, because like in my head, one was getting cut, so I was thinking the 0.2 in the middle school, but like.
No, the whole position, however, I'm adding back the entire position, the 0.8 in RC1 and the 0.2 at RC3.
Yeah, I understand that. So my
Okay.
question then is, are we gonna have to go through this again for the middle school? Or like,
That's a
can,
rich question.
yeah,
I'm assuming we're just going to capture the whole.
okay, so we can just tell you that one time, sorry, that one time. and
If there's,
it'll-
if the.
Okay, great, thank you.
So many of our positions hit multiple line items because they have benefits and other, so no, I'm just clarifying for everyone. So yes, Katie, when we identify a specific position in terms of FTE, Rich will adjust all the corresponding line items. Yes, Dave.
So sorry, I missed this before. Thank you for calling that out, Katie. I was going to pick this up in middle school, but the change to the department chair, I think actually we should have one, but I don't think it should be world language. So I don't know how we address that, but we can discuss that later when we get into deliberations.
We should have one added back in.
We should, when it's all said and done, have a reduction of one, but it should not be the world language chair.
Ah,
So then I propose that should be the English chair. Thank you.
Dennis.
And then, I don't know if and I'm jumping, so with the addition of the curriculum chair, I assume that brings in subtraction of the stipend in RC 19. And I don't know if we wait until then, or if we forget, just want to flag that for the future.
So in the chart, when you'll get it, you'll see the department chair for world language as an example, shown back in, and then the stipends that were proposed at the secondary level taken out. That's kind of like
thank
a
you.
grouping.
They'll flow everything through.
Okay, I'm just.
Use a master. Everything through that ties a recommendation.
Robin.
Okay, so for RC1, account number 1020007, I would like to increase the student parking fees to $200. Like Ridgefield.
Anyone else?
So go back to the world language department chair. I would like to propose making that a K-12 role and taking away the stipends at the elementary school.
Okay. Anything else in RC1? RC2? RC3?
All right.
Yes.
RC2, if I may.
Yes.
101003, which is clubs and councils, also a 20% reduction, Rich, which is, I get is 27,101.
Right, Dave, I don't see that in RC2.
I don't see that.
In Fitch, are you in RC3?
Sorry, I'm jumping to 3. Bad.
Yep.
Go ahead.
3.
So in RC3, 101003, clubs and councils, 20% or 27,101. And 25003, professional development, reduction of $2,500 specifically.
Okay. Anyone else? Greg?
Yeah, so 310320 English teachers, add back 1 FTE. And as I go through these, this is really just as I looked at this, there was a scheduling thing that went back out and just looking at the core curriculum and seeing where we are today. These are all the ones that are already above 18. So they're not below the threshold that the board has dictated. So that's what I'm basically adding back. The English teachers, not foreign language, math teacher, 1 FTE, that's 310330. Science teachers, 310338, that one's at 19.6. Social studies teachers, 310342, that's one's at 19.5.
You added in English, math, science, and social studies?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Julie?
I'll add in 310324, language teacher, 310332, music teacher. And 21215 is the department chair. We already covered that. Did we cover all the teachers that are English, language, math, music, science, and social studies? Okay, thank you. And the assistant principal to cut the AP 21102.
Okay. Katie?
Just piggybacking on a point for further discussion with professional development. I would like to see a decrease here. I don't have a specific amount, but in general, just flagging that.
Okay.
I've got a specific amount, 2,500.
I think that's what Dave said too.
Oh, that's what you said?
Yes, I did.
Okay, sorry, I missed it.
I may have a few more.
Okay. I guess just going around who else? John, and then I'll come back.
So I'm going the opposite way, 310320, the elimination of another FTE, and 310324, world language, the elimination of another FTE.
John,
Can
for
you
clarification,
say
you're looking to get
which
to two?
FTE
World language.
Are
for
you going
world
to get to
language?
two, or are you refuting this one?
No,
These are additional cuts?
these are additional cuts off of what's been proposed by the superintendents.
So where I see one, you're proposing to go to two, is that correct?
Yeah.
And there you go.
Yeah, I was just trying to make sure I understood. Cool, thank you.
John, what was the first one before the language?
310320 English.
English.
And it's to better match the board policy with its classroom size policy.
Julie?
Thank you. I wanted to ask on the PD, and as it comes up throughout, if there's a way to understand what PD is required and what PD is elective, I think it would be helpful to have that information and dollars attached where possible.
Okay. When you say PD is required versus elected, are you referring to a central office level requirement, a state level requirement? Whose requirement?
Mostly kind of a state level requirement, what we are as a district required to be participating in from a PD standpoint versus what we as a district are requesting or that are our staff for whatever participate in.
Okay. Because we do still have some somewhat individual choices as well too. Is that correct or no? Yeah. Okay. Are you interested in seeing that or no, that's not?
I would. I mean, I'd like to see more information than less,
Okay.
for sure. So yes, that would be helpful also to understand that piece.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else in RC3? Okay. RC5, Henley?
Just a point of clear, are we going to take the elementaries together?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
216003, teacher aides, would like to restore that. And I don't know if that's going to be just in this RC or throughout, but whichever way. we wanna
Meaning
take
just
it.
in 5 or meaning?
I'd like to see it in each of the elementary schools, so whichever is the best way to move that forward.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you get that, Rich?
Katie?
Adding back the specials teachers, I have the numbers, Rich, if that's helpful, but if you don't need it.
Can you repeat that, Katie? What?
Yeah, I was adding back the specials teachers at the elementary, so the PE, the art, the music. Okay. Greg?
One of the follow-ups from last meeting that I had asked about was with respect to the number of assistant principals at all the elementary schools where we've got like multiple, including one regular and then one special education. I don't think I got that presentation.
Okay.
So in my mind.
It was linked in the materials.
From
Oh,
SAS
was it?
facilitators to SAS APs was a live link in that. I think, yeah, from either late last night or the one from today.
I think it was
can't remember
yesterday.
right now.
It was last night. It is
Okay.
the January 12th.
We'll help you find after,
2020.
yeah. Okay, Katie?
I also want to flag for discussion the discrepancies between enrollment at the elementary schools. Like we're currently being very formulaic and giving everyone the same number, even though enrollment varies widely.
Are you targeting a specific area, Katie? Are you talking about specifically vis-a-vis AIDS?
So AIDS is the example, but yes, I think it applies more to a bigger conversation for the board and administration and how we think about and how we treat the elementary schools, because it's the same thing with administrators. But yes, specifically to the AIDS. Okay. Dennis?
Mine is building subs 21318. I have a reduction of 1. And then a question is, are those building subs, are they tied to a school or can they work at multiple schools? And I'm not, multiple is too much, but can we have a primary school and a secondary school?
They already do. They currently do. Any building subs that we have, they have a primary building. Generally speaking, they'll go somewhere else if they don't, if there's a vacancy, but generally speaking, there's not a vacancy. They're pretty much tied up at the building that they're at. But they generally do go somewhere else if they're needed, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, Robin?
I have a question, and this is more to get some follow-up information on the elementary staff, the special staff. Specifically, I had asked this question before about the music Tokenique cut that ended up with having Tokenique at 1.5 music teachers versus having 2 at Hindley and Holmes when they've got the same number of sections. So I don't really understand how that's going to work or what the methodology was.
So I think that we made a mistake by including all of the music teachers in the analysis we gave you. There are 7 general music teachers at the elementary level. By formula, they only really need 5.2, and that formula accounts for lunch prep and another 40 minutes a day of transition time and whatever other things that they do when they can't be teaching. So to make the 1.0 reduction would still give them plenty of cushion for ELP. And, 0.4 is ELP now. ELP is in one building. We may be able to look at how much FTE we need there. But so I think that the numbers that you had included some instrumental and some lessons. But Amy and I have spoken to Colleen Thompson. She has 7 general music teachers.
Okay, but it still doesn't answer my question, because it looks like Tokenique has a different number of teachers, even though they have the same number of sections of students. And so I'm just wondering.
So that's what the scheduling consultant will need to help us with, is why that is and why they're being charged that way this year. But that is taking into account the lessons instead of just the general music.
Okay, but wouldn't each elementary school, shouldn't they all have the same level of lessons if they have the same number of students?
Well, they don't all have the same number of students.
Or sections, I mean.
Well, lessons are pulled by individual instrument.
Okay. I just think it would be really helpful, especially with all the public comment tonight, to get a little bit more clarity, especially with music, not only at elementary, but also middle school, how it will work, because I know we haven't had the consulting analysis yet, but it just would be very, very helpful for purposes of having these deliberations to understand that a little bit better, if possible.
Marge, do we have any, I agree with that. Do we have any data from when you first got here before we made the change? Because we did not have building level music teachers. We made that change.
Right, I mean, they did go to the buildings, but.
But they were itinerant.
Right, so we've been using these formulas, they've just gotten a little bit lax over the years, and I think, again, because we're overstaffed, I think it looks like the buildings are unequal because, you know, you have to charge them someplace. I mean, to be brutally honest, I can tell you that the formulas have been working for me for 20 years, so.
Okay.
I'm not sure how to get more specific, but we can certainly talk about it again with Colleen Thompson.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we'll get more information on that. Is that where we're leaving?
Yes, we
That,
are.
okay, thank you. Because and we got an email and we've heard a lot of public comment and my math is not working. So I would really like to see something on this.
Sarah?
21603, I would like to add back 1 aide per school, please.
Okay. Anyone else?
Just one question, because we've been adding back aides. Are those then taking away the building subs that were added, or are people keeping those? Okay.
Okay. Anything else on elementary schools? Otherwise, we will flip to health. RC 11.
RC9, please.
11.
RC 9.
Yeah, just before we
Okay.
close out elementary schools, RC9, 21101, principal, reduction 20%, 42,281. Accountability issue. Rich, you can let me know if that's a thing. I just don't see how we have one elementary school drop in the sub hundreds, and we're happy with that performance. So look forward to discussing that as the full board. Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Brown, sorry, could you just, sorry, maybe I didn't hear you. Could you just, the assistant principal, what did you say?
The principal role reduction of 20%
That's because of,
performance.
did you say some test scores? Was that what I understood you to say? I didn't.
Right, the ranking of the school.
Ranking of the school. Okay. Greg?
Sorry for being late on this, but so 21102 up to 2 of the assistant principals. It doesn't have to be at one of the elementary schools, but across them. I'd like to have further discussion around the presentation that I got. And the
Just to
potential.
mark it.
Yeah, reduction from 5 to 3.
Greg, could you just say that again? I couldn't hear you very well.
Sorry, yeah, so this is the assistant principals at the elementary school where we have 10, reducing that to 8. Not specific to any individual school.
Wait,
So you're making part-time assistant principals, basically. They'd be shared in some way.
Yes,
Shared.
explore a shared model.
Got it. Okay. RC 11. Dennis?
102001, reduction of 100,000. The average over the last 4 years has been 277,000, and we're asking for 381. So I'll give an extra $3,000 and go to 281.
What was the account number, Dennis?
102001. Interscholastics. 100,000.
You're cutting that 100,000?
Yes.
Okay. Most Julie?
I don't have a number yet. I'm just flagging that I'm considering a cut to the RC in general, the operating budget, which is up 19.42% in this budget, which seems exceedingly high in this current climate. I don't have a number right now.
Might need to give some direction, but you don't have to do it tonight. Okay.
Sorry.
Yes.
I wanted to make sure I get it out there, but I don't know quite what I want that number to be just yet.
Okay. Robin?
Okay, so on RC 11, both of these are revenue accounts. So one of them is 102006, summer school field use. I'm not sure if we're able to increase that, the rental rate for the fields, but I would like to increase it 10% so that it's more in line with our cost increases for all of the maintenance, custodial, janitorial, refuse
It's
collection.
an allocation from Darien Summer School, which is why.
Oh, so that's not, okay.
Which is why.
Okay. I do have another one, account 102013, gate receipts. I'd like to potentially propose a $5 increase just for the Turkey Bowl tickets. Okay.
John?
So we don't have a participation fee, and I know we had a discussion, but might as well go for it. There's no revenue line item, right, Rich, for?
We would have to create a line.
Yeah, so can you create a line and then, I mean, here's the problem. It's gonna go across all RCs if we do clubs and councils, right, to the elementary schools. You had created a model that came to 571,000. I'm gonna reduce that to just 400,000, but I don't know how to direct you to do it in the same rough allocation between clubs and councils, athletics, and amongst the RCs as you presented. Thank you.
Do you have enough direction on that, Rich? Okay. Julie?
I'll just make that a 10% right now across the RC 11. 10% cut is what I'm putting on the table.
Okay. Is that operating, Julie, or you're just
Operating, sorry, operating.
Okay.
So John, just to clarify, you want to bring back a participation fee that the board discussed earlier of not accepting?
Yep.
Good.
Okay.
In a budget that's now probably approaching 7%.
Understood. Then I would like to propose then to take the model that we have for out of district, or not out of district, sports which are not housed in at the school that are 70-30, and I think we should apply that to all the sports.
Okay, so two different models. One is a 400K distributed and the other is a 70-30 to all sports.
Yes.
400K is not just athletics.
All
correct?
sports.
Correct. 400K.
All sports
400K
which are
sports and
not
councils.
currently funded 70-30 by the parents. Yes.
It's not
Sorry,
public.
Dennis, I heard something about outside the building, so I'm
So,
just.
so
I'm just looking for
currently we have sailing, squash, hockey,
Skiing.
and skiing that pay 70% of their sport. I'm
And
saying
rugby.
all sports should fund their sport the same way.
So wherever that's cited, 70-30.
Correct.
Thanks, Dennis.
Well, just, how would you do like on-site? Are you just saying off-site?
I'm saying all sports, parents pay 70% of the cost of that sport.
No, all sports.
All
Well,
sports.
all sports, 70% are paid by the parents.
Yep.
Currently, it's just the non-FCX sports, I believe, right?
Right.
Yeah.
No, it's
No.
sports which
Oh,
are
it's
not.
only, oh, okay.
Is that clear, Rich?
Okay. All right.
Jill, I
Anything?
have.
Yeah, go ahead,
another.
Robin.
Just with John's proposal, I'd like to propose splitting it so that we have two separate categories, one for athletics and one for clubs and councils separately, because I believe the analysis for the athletics was about $326,000 just with athletics if you don't charge participation fees for clubs and councils, but I would just want to be able to talk about those separately.
Dave?
I'm just going to ask this now, Dennis, and maybe this goes to Rich in your analysis, but when you talk about, so are we doing like a shadow cost? We'd rent out the gym for an hour for X, so we're going to allocate that cost to the sport, and that's part of the 70? Or, I don't
So the way I'm assuming it's working, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, so we have that per player sport schedule that's in the budget book. So taking that total dollar, multiplying it by 70, that's the parent share, and then multiplying it by 30, and that's the board share. That's how I at least took it.
and does that capture rentals in our buildings or no? Is that an allocated cost in that model?
No, it's an allocated cost.
It's an unallocated cost.
Correct. So it's the transportation, it's the coach's stipends, it's the equipment, the materials, et cetera.
So maybe a little more detail on that would be helpful. Awesome. Thanks, Rich.
Katie?
I'm really worried we're never going to get through this budget season. I felt that this budget was making programmatic and personnel changes through a budget. And now just in the past 5 minutes, we are resurrecting policy that's already been voted down. We are never going to get through this. These are overly complicated and we have real work to do.
Anyone else on RC 11? Okay. RC 12? Julie?
You'd all like to say
Snow?
it with me. I'd like to cut 20,000 out of snow removal. Last year, we spent under 5,000, and the year before that, we spent 27,000. So 59,000 feels a little high, and if we had a fabulous New England winter, I bet we could end up finding the money if we needed to. So I'd like to cut 20,000, 62003.
Anyone else in 12? Robin, yes.
So again, for some revenue lines, I would like account number 102008, increase the building rental fees 10% across the board, again, just to match our increases in custodial and janitorial costs. And then for the auditorium specifically at the high school, raise it to $600 like Westport. And then account number 102009, use of fields, I'd like to increase the rental fee 10%, again, along the same lines.
Anyone else in 12? 13? Sarah?
This is more a question about the salary for the new position of the Director of Visual and Performing Arts. Is that, it looks to be the same as, or similar to what the Director of Music is currently, since it's a larger job?
So we,
Sorry.
so we did mention before, we did put the allocation of an increased salary and contract support because at the time
Oh,
the
sorry,
budget
you're right.
was.
Yes, sorry. Yep.
Can you remind us of that number?
It was a little over $8,000, so the equivalent of 10 extra days.
Anything from 13, Katie?
I would like to add back the position of Director of Music K through 12 and cut the Director of Visual and Performing.
So, okay. Have you made a different account or you've just changed the title on the account?
We changed the title of the account and then take the money out of contract support.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? RC 14, art.
Mike Kurtz. Oh,
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, any changes in this one? Katie?
Add back the 0.2 teacher release.
Okay. Anyone else in art? Technology? Dave?
Rich, I don't know how to do this one best. For account 1230.21, new computer equipment, second line item in the detail is replace administrative laptops across the district. Can we just take a survey and see who actually needs these things before we go ahead and buy them and get an idea of what that number is, so that I may have a cut based on that? Thank you.
Anyone else in technology? Okay. Administration? Julie?
120001, I think you were already recommending sorry, I'm putting my words together, cutting the consultant services at 20,000 for the scheduling implementation. Is that correct? Okay. So I'd like that cut. And 11032, executive assistant. Yeah, I'm gonna say cut, but to be discussed about if there's a reorganization or some way to figure out how to handle those needs.
We may need another discussion. Okay.
Okay. Dave?
I thank you. Also on 12001, I'm looking for reduction of $19,140. I got there, our consultant's book is $36. 3 books per building is $864. So I'm proposing we buy 3 books for each building, including central offices, to educate people on how to do scheduling. Next, 12004, legal services. I'm looking for a reduction of 20% or $34,000. I see we don't have any negotiations upcoming. I think we can be a little thrifty there. Next, 25026, dues and memberships. 2 items. One is for 17,800. The other is for 5,250. The purpose there, as I see this, is for arcade dues of 17,800. I also see something called the Partnership for Educational Leadership, which I think is actually Partners for Education Leadership, which is Richard Lemons. And a follow-up question on that one, Rich, this partnership or partnership for whatever the proper name is. I know that we used, I believe, an ESSER grant to fund the consultant who came in and did the survey, correct? Or it was a grant, right? We used for that funding?
For the scheduling consultant.
So my question there is, and I know this is a different consultant, aside from this $5,200, excuse me, 5,250 that was given to this organization, have we directed any other funds from any other source to this organization this year would be a follow-up question. Thank you.
Mr. Brown, that 52, just for the record, that's a contractual matter.
I look forward to discussing it.
Can you give some more color on CABE too, whether that's, required and what that 17,800 entails?
It's not a requirement, but
It's,
go ahead.
it's not a requirement, but you obviously couldn't access anything.
Right.
And Dave, just to clarify, you're asking for color on the agreement with Partnership for Educational Leadership. Is that the one you were asking for color on?
Well, I'm not looking for color. I want to know if we've sent any money there outside of 5250, or perhaps it was a lower number last year, so maybe it's not exclusive to 5250, but whatever, just want to know what we sent there. if
The current
anything.
fiscal year,
Previous, yes.
previous or current?
Yes.
Thank you. Did I see another hand over there? Katie?
I just wanted to flag that I have some follow-up questions to the placement of that $100,000 for the scheduling and the grant as well. If we want to talk about it now, if we want to wait until we talk about the transfers.
Yeah.
But
During the
thank you.
transfers, yeah, thank you. Okay, Greg?
This is a small one, but if we're making cuts, maybe we should just reduce the other board expenses to not increase that year over year. So reduce that by 3,000.
What does that represent, Rich?
So that would be the cost for Mr. DeMayo. So we would have to not record some of it.
Oh, is it just one? It's not.
So
like
the
all
increase
the-
is largely a result of that service.
Okay, anything else in RC 16? Okay, RC 17, health. I see no hands. Okay, RC 18, personnel.
Joe?
Yes, Robin.
So for our RC 18, 11023 salary savings. I'd like to see that at a higher number than the 55,000 that's currently in the budget, just based on prior years. Is that possible? I was thinking maybe 100.
I mean, it,
It's just a guess, yeah.
but, yeah, I would just say, what's the average been over the last 3 years?
So we were higher this year by, it was about 250, and then the previous years we were in the 50,000 range.
In the 50,000.
All right, well, we can put it in 100K. We can vote it up or down. But yes, I hear you on the history. Anything else on 18? '19 curriculum. Sarah?
191206, I'd like to add back the curriculum coordinator and then reduce the teacher, whatever goes with it.
Yep. Okay, anyone else? Dave?
So for RC 19 curriculum, 21201 is in here twice. So it's Director of Elementary Education and Director of Mental Health. I know the Director of Mental Health was brought in to change the culture of the schools. I'm not aware of that happening. I think there's only one person responsible for the culture of their schools, and that's the building heads. So I'm proposing a reduction of $162,000. The Director of Elementary Education, I'm proposing a reduction of $211,504, given where we are in terms of the reading grant and other performance issues. 21312 Curriculum Development, proposing reduction of $154,025. It's a tough year. Maybe we can take a little pause.
Wait,
25026.
slow down. Where was the last one?
Sorry, 21312, line 665, Curriculum Development, reduction of $154,025. Last line 673, RC or account 25026, dues and memberships, reduction there of $8,717. And lastly, professional development, line 679, account 25003, professional development, reduction of $145,390. Thank you.
Dave, can you just clarify 21312, you were reducing to 0, the curriculum development?
That's the requested cut, correct?
RC 20 finance. Oh, sorry, Julie, go ahead.
It's just a different number, but 25003, I was going to request a 10% cut. And again, the additional information on PD as discussed earlier. Professional development.
Anyone else? Katie?
I would like to, oh, you know what? I think it got covered. Never mind.
RC 20 finance. Okay, RC 21 library media. Dave?
Thank you. Line 716, account 23005, online subscriptions, increase $2,405, please.
Anything else in libraries? RC 22 technology education, go ahead. It's whatever was cut. It's the delta between what was cut and RC 22. Okay. RC 23, summer school.
Jill?
Yes.
I have, for summer school, sorry, I'm trying to find mine. Okay, so account 31005, the revenue, I'd like to again do a 10% increase just due to the increased costs.
Any obstacles to that, Rich?
So the consultant service line item would also have to increase as part of the arrangement for some of the classes is a revenue split for the teachers who run the program.
Okay, so is that why it was an even increase for both? Okay, sorry, and I didn't realize that. Okay, then you can just disregard that.
Anyone else on 23? Nope, 24. Katie?
Cut the program director K through 12 and add back 6 through 12 and K through 5.
Anyone else in special education? 24? 26? No, sorry, 25. Fixed expenses. John?
We already have Alan's change in the LP, right?
We do.
Yeah.
But I'm on, sorry, I'm on 25.
Okay,
Not that there's anything to cut here, but
I was
sorry, my bad.
just wondering, since
said
in 52001, maybe that's the transportation, is there any, I don't know, is there anything that we could do as we're buying another Suburban? Can we do that? I don't know. I would like to, if there's any possible flexibility there.
No, we can look at it. We have a-
26, early learning program. We have Alan's proposal. Anything else? Katie?
I'm proposing to cut the fifth day entirely and spend the year in discussion and development.
Anyone else? RC 27, security. Dave.
Thank you. Line 958, account 21602, campus monitors, requesting an increase of $38,855. Thank you.
One FTE.
You got it.
Anyone else? Okay, capital. Darien High School. Robin?
The classroom operable wall for $65,000. I'd like to have a little more discussion and information about that and why that's really needed.
Anything else at the high school? Middle school? Henley, there's nothing. Oh, no. The camera. Holmes, Oxridge, Royal.
I have one for Ox. Yes. Sorry, Rich, I'm looking for the number, but I'm sure you have it faster than I do. What? Okay, just like Dennis said, 28K for a snow thrower.
Does that mean you do not want to buy it?
No, I'm piggybacking on Julie's comments on climate change.
So a cut.
A cut.
Cutting
A
the
cut.
snow thrower.
I thought it was 68. Rich, what is the total of that?
It is 28,000. I will say the last snowstorm we got, it took over 6 hours for the custodians to clear it because they don't have snow thrower.
With the little bit?
Because there's a lot of sidewalks.
Okay, so it's on there for some discussion. All right, Royal, Tokenique, Central Office, District-wide,
Central office.
yes.
Could we punt on the windows for a year? I don't think the building will fall down. Just like a little guidance from facilities on that.
Okay. Anything district-wide? No. All right. Rich, enjoy. Thank you in advance. Reminder to the public that, of course, none of this is set in stone until the night of the 13th. There will be, I expect, some spirited back and forth over the next couple of weeks. I appreciate the board's engagement on it first, administrations as well, and the public's.
Rich, what do you think the time frame is going to be on kind of summarizing this on a spreadsheet?
Probably in the day tomorrow.
You are good.
You're not done yet, Rich.
All right. Discussion on December 2023-24 financial report and possible action on proposed budget transfers. Rich.
All right, so this is the financial report through December. We are forecasting a deficit of $418,067. The general education RCs are forecasted at a positive 212,000, while special education is forecasted at a deficit of 630,000. Overall, salaries are forecasted at a positive $119,000. We did fall short of turnover savings by over $300,000. We did have salary savings of just over $270,000. We do have some clubs that are not running, some savings for the new salary schedule for custodians, savings from the para and secretary contract, as well as the lower enrollment section at home. Operating is forecasted at a deficit of $468,000. 341,000 of that is special education consultant services, which are the contracted RBTs. Overall fixed is forecasted at a positive 102,975. This is primarily in the area of health insurance due to census changes. Equipment is minor at 270,000 to the positive. And then revenue is forecasted at a deficit of 172,656, with the deficit primarily being in excess cost reimbursement. We are anticipating a lower reimbursement at this point than anticipated. So there are 4 transfers for consideration and approval. The first is for $170,242, and that's to partially offset the deficit in consultant services and special education, with savings coming primarily from salary savings and vacant assistant principal, classroom teacher section that was less than budgeted, health insurance savings and contract support. The second is for $18,500. This is to do the air conditioning project in the server room at Tokenique earlier. That was recommended on the walkthrough for the budget. The next one is for $15,586 for contract speech. We did have a speech therapist on a leave of absence, and so this is moving the funds for that salary savings into contracted speech who's covered. And then $33,800 into consultant services for contracted psychological services, and then taking those funds from long-term substitutes.
Okay. Are there any questions on the report or the transfers? Katie, did you want to ask a question?
So at the finance subcommittee meeting, there was a grant report included in materials, and I had asked about the scheduling consultant being one of 3 items that was listed under the ESSER grant. And Rich had explained that there were kind of 3 buckets under which things could fall into that, and that one fell under professional development. Not really sure I think that's a loose definition in my opinion, but my question is, for something that is not planned in the budget, something like a consultant, my question is, what threshold is set where it has to come to the board? So obviously, it's got to be over 23,000 because we already paid for the first part of the scheduling consultant. But I'd like to know at what point does the board have to approve that type of cost?
So only if it crosses broad object series is the board policy. So if we were taking funds from, let's say, salaries to consultant services, then it would have to go to the board. Or if you were taking money from insurance, let's say, to cover it, then it would have to go to the board. I will say the state has approved that as an expenditure.
So anything that can be funded within a set line item, a set category in the budget, as long as it doesn't require a transfer, it
So-
can be for anything
So there's
different.
two adjustments that can be made. One is considered a superintendent's adjustment, and that's something that stays within the same category. So let's say salaries to salaries or consultant services to consultant services, which is other professional services. And then there's board transfers, which are expenses that cross those lines.
So then, as a follow-up question, when, like, what would the timeline be that that money would be expected to be spent?
So he hasn't started, so the superintendent would have to give the consultant essentially the go-ahead. And once that happens, like progress payments would typically be made as he does the work. That grant does have to be expended by September 1st of this calendar year.
So Alan, do you have an expectation on when you would start that work?
So the principals would like the assistants to do these, to work side by side, to do the schedules really next month as early as possible.
So my question where I'm going with this, I'm curious as to where we might be in the budget process. I understand. So if you say next month, would that be before or after the 13th?
Honestly, I would like to sign that contract now.
So I have concerns about that because if, for example, we kicked off our budget discussions tonight with you showing an example of reverting back without the admin restructuring, which actually brings our total budget increase down. So if that doesn't pass, then there's no need for it. And $100,000 is a major amount of money. So I at least want to voice concerns over potentially starting something before it's been, approved. And I understand that specific amount doesn't have to be approved, but its intention does need to be approved in here.
So it's really the same difference. It's not, I know it's, there's not the assistants principals model. It's the efficiency model we're talking about but it's the same thing, you're talking about. It's
So-
the middle school and the elementary. Yeah. Well, it's not the assistant principal part. It's nothing to do with it.
It's the teachers.
Yeah.
Yes, so
Yes,
if this board does not approve eliminating those teacher positions, there is no need for $100,000 schedule from this consultant.
It still would be professional development, and still we've asked the State Department of Education would that apply, and it does apply, and it does apply under other categories as well. It still could be considered
So
professional development.
then, so when the consultant came, my understanding was that he said, it's 23, it's 100, it's another 20 for implement. And then he also went on to say, and you'll never stop paying me, you'll do this every year. So can you just explain?
What did he say?
He basically said that it would be like an annual cost that people use their services year after
No.
year. Okay, so that's my question is
No,
how does it
there's
become
no-
professional development if we're not then learning to do it ourselves? And you're saying
But
that
they
we
would be learning
would.
to do it themselves. They'd be working alongside the principals, learning to do it themselves.
So then it would be done in-house and there would not be need for a consultant
No, he would work
after.
with them. But after it's done.
Yes, after these
Yes,
three
yes, yes.
payments.
No, yes, it wouldn't be ongoing.
Any other questions on that? Go ahead, Julie.
No, I don't have a question right now. Sorry. I might have a question as we continue to discuss the possibility of what we do with these teacher roles. But no, I don't have a question on this transfer.
Okay, Dave?
So I appreciate, Rich, the guidance about the various, broad buckets and the categories there. Just for point of information, Kate, I guess I'm trying to understand, is this a accounting question or is this a transparency question as you perceive it? As you do?
So I guess it's two components. Like one, I did not know that, those like high numbers could be just put into something that wouldn't require board approval. That's a surprise to me. That wasn't a piece of information I knew. The second piece is really getting ahead of ourselves and spending money that might be going in a direction that is potentially opposite from where the board wants to take things. Yeah.
Okay. All right. With that, we need, any questions on the transfers specifically? Okay. May I have a motion to approve the December budget transfers? That wasn't so hard to find. Dennis, seconded by John. All those in favor? Okay, that's unanimous. Further discussion and possible action on board master agenda for February through August of 24.
Don't have too much to say other than it's there for your reading. We'll have to circulate a little calendar or something for the July special meeting, but other than that, it's trying to follow what we said we would follow.
Okay, any comments on that?
Jill, just a
Yes.
question. Is this the time where we would add potential agenda items that we might want to discuss at some point?
Yes.
Because I'm not sure what the right timing would be, but again, we had discussed in the past the cell phone use policy, for instance, at elementary or middle schools. And I don't know if that's something that we might want to put, because it also has to do with mental health. And I know we have ongoing mental health updates, but it would be helpful to maybe have some additional information so we could have a discussion about that, just given parent feedback around it.
We do have a line item in the strat plan looking at technology. Do we know when that's coming?
Yes,
out?
and I know he's met with some Tim has met with some districts, but he's going to bring that back. I can't tell you which date it is, but he's going to bring it back as a report, as a recommendation.
Do we have a ballpark? Is that like spring, summer, fall?
I think it's this spring here, but I'll have to ask him correctly.
Okay.
But that's what he presented as part of his 60, 90 1-year plan.
Okay. Right. Anything else we're missing? Dave?
So I don't know where to add this yet, or we get another bite at this, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Just to throw this out there to start the conversation, the strat plan has a little time left in it, but probably at some point towards the end of this year, we may want to think about that in terms of methodology, process, do a little bit of pre-work as opposed to, having to rush into that on a tight deadline. So just throwing that out as something we may want to consider adding to the end of the year.
Okay. Any other comments on the agenda?
I'm just thinking of things that we've talked about throughout this budget season, and one of the items that came up that will require a lot of thought amongst ourselves, but also other town bodies, was the idea of some sort of transportation depot of some nature. I don't know how we start that conversation or where we start that
I
conversation.
did speak to John Zagretzky and let him know that the board was interested in, because we indicated that here, that the board is interested in town pursuing that. So I've asked that go on an upcoming OPC agenda discussion. So I would bring that back at some point. Yes, thank you for raising it.
If we're looking at the buses, we may also bring something back like a hybrid or something that might help.
Okay.
Robin?
And this is kind of in the context of things that have come up in the budget discussion again, because on the agenda is also thoughts about things that we would want to have a kind of a meeting prior to the budget next year. And I would want to add a presentation from ELP, and specifically, I mean, depending what happens here, but if we are thinking about doing the 5 days, or, just to kind of see how things are going, it would be helpful to have that presentation prior to the beginning of the budget process. And then also, it was really helpful to have an SRBI presentation. Likewise, I'd love to see something more about 504s maybe included in that as well, separate from budget.
Okay, so I think 504 would be appropriate to show up on this agenda next time. And then I think that at the end of the budget process, one of the things that we did was identify sort of all the outstanding items and take a look at how they could feed in through the following year. So I hope we'll do that again at the end of this budget cycle. We will do that again at the end of this budget. Okay. Okay, thank you. Greg?
Just building on that, I think there's been a number of topics around special education, digging into that and evaluating
Yes.
it. I don't know if that should be on here as well.
Okay.
Or where it should be. And then the other one was just, we've had some conversations, and maybe this is included within the district strategic plan and board goals, but the vision of the graduate and revisiting that, include that as well.
Okay. I think we probably need to give some specificity around special education and digging in. So if you want to think on that a little bit, or anybody wants to think on that specifically, what we want to ask, not right now,
Yeah.
but, and come back with a suggestion.
Just want to point out, this is February through August. I just want to make sure everyone saw that.
Yes, I'm
That-
just taking the notes.
Yeah, okay.
Just while it's top of mind.
Yeah. And we'll look at this again. I think we look at it either quarterly or 3 times a year. Anyone else? Okay, thank you all. Personnel report, March.
There's no personnel report. We did have a late resignation from a special education teacher at Hinley just last week. So we've already started to interview, and we're coming close to filling the positions, special education positions at the high school that are being filled by our wonderful staff teaching overages.
Thank you very much. Okay, public comment.
Good evening. If anyone in person would like to participate, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You'll have up to 3 minutes to comment.
All right. So, Jackie Owens, 4 Persons Walk, and I'm speaking not as any organization, but just as a mother and as a former clinician who has worked in schools, community settings, and hospitals. It's very concerning that mental health curriculum and programming has not been mentioned at all. During this budget season, we've spent a lot of money on professional development to implement the ruler in the classroom and for our students. But how is it possible that we're not talking about it when Amy gave her curriculum presentation tonight? We have real survey data that we can't ignore. Our middle school and high school students are struggling with mental health. Anxiety, stress, suicidal thoughts, eating disorders, self-harm. The board is also aware of how bullying is such an issue across all schools, and it's not just middle and high school. We can't ignore this as a district, especially when people are voicing their concerns, saying we have too many IEPs, but we're not even just talking about those students. It's about the entire student body, all of our kids in the district, because they all matter and have feelings. We need to create a safer learning environment and adapt more evidence-based programmings, especially prevention. So our elementary kids don't have to have the survey results that our middle and high school students had, right? We want to make better outcomes for our students. I know it's a very complex budget season, but how can we essentially restructure all the way from ELP to 12th grade right now? That's essentially what the budget is proposing. And yet mental health is not in the forefront. So I just want to make sure in this budget that we actually think about a clear vision and justification of how it will actually benefit our students and our staff. Don't forget how important retention is, right? We always compare it to like New Canaan, this, that, and the other. So let's show them that we can retain our wonderful teachers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in person? If anyone online would like to participate, please use the raised hand icon. There are no raised hands at this time.
Okay, with that, may I have a motion to adjourn?